Good morning. Welcome. This is the AM show on Joy News around the world on myjoyonline.com, and we're also live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125. My name is Sweetie Abochi.
And mine is Benjamin Akako. Now the month is creeping away from us. If you've got anything to do, now is the time. 18 days already, and March is marching. But let's usher you into the show and what you can expect on it this morning. The news will be served your way shortly, followed by the news review. And those who join us for the news review, Dr. Ikuya Mwako, NPP Communications Directorate member, and Mohammed Bataglia, Member of Parliament for Sisala East. And that will be followed by sports with Muftau Nabila Abdullah. And then we get into our big stories. Interesting stuff coming your way.
Yes, yesterday we saw that statement that effectively, President John Dramani Mahama making some changes to the military hierarchy days after shaking up that of prisons, fire service, and immigration. The question we're asking, what does these leadership changes mean for the security of the state? And are these changes in line with best practices? We'll hear from a security analyst on the show, and we'll get incisive with that conversation. You want to stay with us?
But we also talk about education. We all know about schools under trees and the rest. But the situation in the Sachelibo DA in the northern region is dire. Pupils are confronted with a double whammy. Not only do they just lie on the floor to write, but they also share overcrowded classrooms where multiple grade levels are taught together due to a dire shortage of teachers. We'll bring you details on that as we try to brainstorm how to deal with these issues on Crumbling as Start. You'd want to join us with your thoughts on social media and via phone. But we're always supported by Sweetie Abochi.
Waylead Properties. Stay with us. We'll be right back and start with the AM Hi, I'm Sweetie Abochi, and this is the AM News Bulletin on the AM Show. Let's get right into details, starting with scores of parents rushed into Labone Senior High School here in Accra to pick up their wards after fire ravaged two female dormitories, leaving behind extensive damages and loss of students' belongings. Joy News' Sarah Mensah was at the school premises earlier, and this is her report.
Scores of distressed parents today rushed to the Labone Senior High School to pick up their wards after fire ripped through two dormitories and reduced students' belongings, including mattresses, chop boxes, books, clothes, furniture to ashes. Some 155 students have been affected. No injuries have been reported. Crowds of students were evacuated to nearby bungalows on campus when the fire broke out around midday on Sunday before firefighters contained the fire. The situation has some students on campus without power. Some affected students spoke to Joy News.
They used the water to quench the fire, so we ran out of water in the dormitory. But they came to refill it yesterday, and we used everything this morning.
Oh, okay.
So we've run out of water again.
Okay, so how long is this going to take? Are you always going to fetch water?
Right now, we don't know. Right now, we don't know, but for this evening, then we know we have to go there to get water.
Okay.
As for tomorrow morning, we have no idea if they will provide us water or we'll still have to do the same thing tomorrow.
So aside from the water not flow, the tap not flowing, what are some of the challenges you're facing? Do you have electricity?
No, we don't have electricity, but some students don't have places to sleep.
Okay.
So they are finding somewhere for them.
So where did you sleep last night?
Some were giving empty beds in the rooms. Yeah, some people also slept on the floor outside.
Right now we are trying to look for things that survived from the fire and put all together so that we find a way for it.
What did you lose?
I lost my bed sheets, my books, and a lot of things.
Okay. So have you reached out to your parents or something?
Yes, please.
And what are they saying?
The house mistress told them that we are okay, so.
And now the room that I'm actually in is actually leaking because of the fire. So we are not allowed to sleep in there. So they've moved us to a place where we can sleep.
Okay, where did you sleep last night?
I was taken to the new dormitory annex.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm also told some of your colleagues slept in teachers' bungalows.
Yes, it's actually at the side. Yes,
Okay.
they slept there.
So were you safe there? Like, do you have a place?
Yes, we were safe, but we
Comfortable?
were like stranded because we were many.
Okay.
So yes, so finding our way out of the room was actually difficult because people were actually sleeping in the middle
Okay.
of the place. Yeah.
Johnny spoke to some parents who had come to pick up their children.
Because science and any no won't be that. When
something like this happens, they panic. So I decided to pick her up and bring her home. I'll bring her back on Wednesday. She's okay, but a bit shaken by the incident.
By Wednesday.
School ni bia ni wa wapra nyame adom bia ampra but I say omakuma atu because openi kra wo fie na we tu wo fie na wo baby hia okuma tu wan hwe kra na bibia yew.
There were no casualties, but many students are still in shock. That's why I came to get her. Thankfully, all her belongings are intact.
Ababa me ba no de hwe anye no bibia anye no. Ono so ne niama no anhye ne niama anhye.
Classes at the school was disrupted today. Chairman of the school's PTA, Ablo, urged the general public to stay calm as the school's authorities work with parents to restore normalcy.
Those who were affected, some of them were not affected much, as I told you earlier on. So they are putting their things together. However, we have something that is extra tuition helping them. Aside government teaching normal time, we have extra one that we parents has come out with to support the children with it. That is where teachers are also in it and supporting them. So currently, yesterday, for instance, and today, they are trying to put up their things together, but teaching is ongoing in Labone. Yeah. In terms of food, everything is ongoing. Yes, because when it's time for dining, all of them are being sacked as the normal routine to go for dining. Yesterday, for instance, some of them were complaining that their lunch bag and things got bent. So we quickly then organized a plate and other things for them at the dining.
Now, as the Central Region continues its battle against the galamsey menace, the Central Regional Minister, Opioid, is happy to have convinced and encouraged two brothers who were engaged in galamsey to switch to agriculture. During the donation of a land in the Oboyo Forest in the Isukuma Odobeng Brakwa constituency of the Central Region to the brothers, the regional minister appealed to the government, the youth and other stakeholders to help spread the call for more youth to engage in agriculture instead of illegal mining. Abigail Isel in Nkrumah has more in this report.
Within the Oboyo Forest in the Isukuma Odobeng Brakwa constituency lies a new hope of an alternative livelihood for the youth in the Central Region. The Central Regional Minister, Opioid, tells journalists he wishes the youth will channel their interest and energy into the area of agriculture instead of illegal mining, calling the Modified Tonja System, MTS, introduced by the Forestry Commission, a commendable initiative. He made these comments while giving out land through the system to twin brothers, Otin Mensah Sr. and Otin Mensah Jr., who formerly were illegal miners, to begin their journey in the area of agriculture.
An acre will cost us an acre to get the trees and other things done. In an acre will cost us about 14,000. And so we want the government to come to our aid, as we also want a lot of you to come on board. I cannot do it all alone. And so it's my plea. Individuals who also want to fight the galamsey menace must also come to our aid, because it's not easy. And that's the only way to motivate them. Like they just said, they have the interest, but how to go into the farming activities demands some financial capital, which is why they are unable. But I think that what we've got into, we have no option than to find every possible way of supporting the youth to come into agriculture, which is why we are here today. We're also grateful to the technical officer of this forest, and that the tree aspect is also very important. our forests are, going down, and it's important that we replace it as early as possible. My interest and my love in this business is the fact that we are at least trying to replace the trees that we've destroyed for this period. And I think that if we get a number of the youth on board, that will help us to do that. So we are calling on the individuals to come to our aid, calling on the government to come to our aid, so that in no time we'll bring back our depleting forests.
Former galamseyers, twin brothers Ote Mensah Jr. and Ote Mensah Sr. walked us through their meeting with the regional minister and their transition from galamsey to agriculture.
Enim say galamsey dwumadie bi a essence say insuo. No na yewura oba ya nimu no yehunu say ye say oman no nsase. Nti ye dadwene ho. Enu titiriw nti na ija galamsey no.
The range supervisor of the Oboyo Forest, Emmanuel Pepra, explains the modified Tonja system and encourages the youth to take advantage of the system.
Now getting a land to farm is very difficult. And here's the case, we are giving you land for free, and we'll be providing you with some technical advice and technical support, and alongside the seedling provision. And what you will do is you do your farm, and you grow the trees, peg and grow the trees. So it's very much advantageous.
From Esukumo Odobin Brakwa, Abigail Esel Nkrumah reports for Joy News.
One of the major challenges faced by the Upper West Regional Hospital since it started operation 5 years ago has to do with its huge consumption of electric power. The facility on a monthly basis used to consume about 1,400,000 Ghana cedis, which is way more funds than their internal funds can generate for the hospital. And Joy News Upper West Regional correspondent Rafiq Salam reports that all is now a thing of the past due to the ingenuity of management of the hospital, which has now reduced the monthly consumption of the hospital to less than 500,000 Ghana cedis worth of electricity. Yes, more.
It is a state-of-the-art paperless hospital that cost the Ghanaian taxpayer an amount of $52.5 million United States dollars. It is often referred to as the medical mecca of the Upper West region, who serves not only the people in the region and other parts of the country, but neighboring West African nationals as well. The cruel reality, however, is that the hospital started without the needed seed capital. At the start of its operation was 160-bed hospital. However, following the patronage and demand, management of the facility increases bed capacity to 236.
This is a turnkey project hospital that was delivered to the people some 5 years ago. The hospital came along with a lot of electricity bills that it consumes every month, because almost every part of the hospital has a centralized air condition. They have deep freezers, and because of that, they used to pay huge bills. But thanks to the ingenuity of the hospital authorities, they have been able to convert some of these centralized air conditioners at the hospital into ceiling and standing fans.
The power consumption of the hospital in a month was pegged around 1.4 million Ghana cedis. Furthermore, the yearly accumulated consumption of power of the hospital was 14,400,000 Ghana cedis. It was therefore a concern for the outgoing medical director of the hospital and renowned orthopedic and trauma surgeon, Dr. Robert Amesia. He started to look for answers.
We actually approached the Energy Commission to do an energy audit and recommend to us measures that we can take to reduce the high energy cost. So they gave us some recommendations, we implemented them, and even though electricity tariffs went up by more than 5 times, because they keep reviewing the tariffs, but we have reduced it from 1.2 million. I'm sure with the tariff increments, it should have been almost 2 million by now, but we're doing under 500,000. But we still want to invite Energy Commission to come and do a second audit and then give us recommendations.
The Volta River Authority, Northern Electricity Distribution Company, via NERCO, on numerous occasions threatened to cut power supply to the final referral health facility. In fact, on one of the occasions, via NERCO went beyond the threat and cut off power supply to the hospital for 3 hours. Dr. Robert Amesia therefore decided to implement the recommendation of the Energy Commission, which has reduced drastically the high tariffs at the hospital, starting with the change of the bulbs and the centralized air conditioners into ceiling and standing fans, which consumes almost 42% of power at the facility.
We have centralized air conditioners that were going to the neonatal intensive care unit, the ICU, the laboratory, the theaters, and they advised us that the centralized air conditioning was using almost 42% of the hospital power. And if we converted that to split air conditioners, we're going to drop from 42% to around 7.8%.
APO's area manager of the VR NERCO, Engineer Francis Yemiso, commended the APO's Regional Hospital for the initiative, urging other government and non-governmental organizations to follow their example.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam. Wow.
From Wa, let's go to other regions now, because the OT Regional Minister John Kojo Japong is seeking the support of all former MDCEs in the region for the development of that region. According to the minister, the region must be seen above the petty politics of the two major parties. And we'll tell you more in this report.
Deputy Regional Minister John Kojo Japong summoned all former municipal and district chief executives in the region whose tenure in office spanned between 2001 and 2024. According to the minister, this initiative is to harness the experiences of these former leaders of the various assemblies in the region to promote peace and development.
We wanted to bring all of them together to come and brief us and give us the experiences that they have had when they were chief executives. And they came to tell us what it is. Some started from 1993 to 1996, some from 2001 to 2005, and so on and so forth. We wanted their experiences and their challenges, so that we'll take a clue from them. As a regional minister, I should be abreast with whatever happens in all the district, And again, as an indigent, it is my duty, to bring peace to OT region, which is very, very important to me. There are a lot of things that I've heard that I never knew before.
The minister also indicated that this encounter is to give him the foreground into what goes on at the various assemblies before the president finally announces his preferred representatives for the various assemblies in the region.
I intentionally decided to have this meeting before the new chief executive come, so that I will be informed about what is going around on the ground. And by doing so, I will be able also to advise, the incoming chief executive properly.
The minister again said this is part of the reset agenda to include all those who matter in the development of the region.
We are resetting Ghana, and you should use all the strategies that you have at your fingertips to be able to reset Ghana. So I think that bringing all these people together, bringing all of them together and understanding my modus operandi, I think that I've started the research already.
Some participants who are also former DCEs have been sharing their views on this first of a kind meeting of former leaders at the various assemblies.
I think that this is a novelty. He's not here as a regional chairman of a party, but he's here as a regional minister for OT region. We all fought for the region to be created. So if he finds it in his wisdom that immediate past DCs from year 2001 to date should all come so that we share ideas as to how we can develop our region. This is a laudable idea.
Elders say knowledge is not in the head of one person. Therefore, it is very laudable. The atmosphere was very serene and everybody was able to air out the experience they've had in their work as DCEs and then advise going forward what should be done.
The same kind of meeting is expected of all former members of parliament in the region in the coming month of April 2025. Peter Sanu for Joy News.
In other stories, parents in the Kajebi districts in the OT region have been urged by stakeholders in education not to force career choices on their wards, but allow and guide the children to make such lifetime decisions. Now, these choices, the stakeholders believe, would help the children live their full potential. There's more in this report.
World Vision Ghana joined parents at the Pampangwe Circuit in the Kajebi district of the OT region in this year's Career Day celebration. The pupils and students were dressed in various professions of their choices, with nursing dominating. Speaking on the occasion, the District Director for Education for Kajebi District, Seth Seyramde, called on parents not to force career choices on their wards, but support them to make their individual choices while they, as parents, nurture them.
If you look at the categories of sectors they represent, you realize that every job is necessary for our growth as human beings. The teacher is necessary. The policeman is necessary as well. The farmer, the health worker, all are important in our society. But my only advice to parents this afternoon is don't force your children into doing what they are not interested in. Don't force your child to become a doctor if your child wants to become a musician. If you force him or her, you end up destroying his or her career.
Students living with disabilities have welcomed the government's free tertiary education policy, calling it a significant step toward making higher education more accessible. For many, the cost of tuition has been a major barrier. However, while they appreciate the policy, they argue that critical challenges such as mobility, accessibility, and employment opportunities still need urgent attention to ensure inclusive education. Let's tell you more in this report.
For years, students with disabilities have struggled to access higher education due to financial barriers. But change is finally here. During the 2025 budget presentation, Finance Minister Dr. Kasiel Atuforsin announced budgetary allocation for tertiary education for students with disability.
His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama has resolved the funding challenges by uncapping the GET fund. This makes available dedicated funding for full financing of free tertiary education for persons with disability.
For students with disability, like Foster at the University of Ghana, this is a major relief. But he says financial support alone is not enough.
For the free tertiary, we are very happy about it. He should provide maybe a minibus for the public universities that can convene us to class.
You spend 300 cedis a day on transportation.
Yes, please.
Can you just break it down for me?
I have lectures 4 times in a day. But when you pick the boats or Uber will send you to your destination, and sometimes they will assist you into the lecture hall. Yes, so by the time you get to your destination, maybe it's 30 cedis or 35 cedis. And when you are returning, you know, most of the time in the afternoon to boats and Uber, they are very expensive. So you have to take, sometimes you can pick boats from Mensa Sabah Hall to Ikwafu Hall, it's 30 cedis. if I want food from night market and I'm pleading with someone to go and buy it for me, it means I have to motivate the person to. So I have to pay, maybe I'm buying 40 cedis. I have to buy 40 cedis for the person to, so that next time when I call the person will go. So if my parents can't provide those transportation fee for me, it means I can't go to class. So it makes most of our colleagues, they don't go to class. Even if you find out from some of the lecturers, if they will tell you the truth, most of us, we don't go to class. We just rely on the materials that the lecturers, they post on Sakai or our learning platform.
Jude.
Despite efforts to promote gender inclusion, women remain underrepresented in Ghana's security sector. The Ghana National Action Plan 1 failed to bridge the gap, with women making up less than 10% of the armed forces. Advocates say this must change. There's more in this report.
GANEP 1 aimed to increase female participation in security, but poor implementation left a significant gender gap. Today, women make up less than 10% of the Ghana Armed Forces. Advocates say including more women in security roles is key to effective conflict resolution. Theodora Williams-Anti.
Away from that, Dean of the School of Engineering Sciences at the University of Ghana, Professor Elsie Kaufman, has disclosed that the country has only 285 women out of the 3,000 scientists in the country. This, she said, represents just 9.5%. Professor Kaufman added that currently there are only 5 female engineering professors in Ghana. She said the underrepresentation of women in STEM is worrying and has some implications. She made these remarks at the Her Story Summit organized by Feed Ghana to mark this year's International Women's Day in Tamale.
Her Story Summit offers women who have distinguished themselves in their various careers the opportunity to tell their story to help inspire younger girls. It also offers these younger girls the platform to engage with their mentors. This year's Her Story Summit was under the theme For All Women and Girls Rise, Equality and Empowerment. Addressing the gathering, the Dean of School of Engineering Sciences at the University of Ghana, Professor Elsie Kaufman, said despite the passage of the Affirmative Action Bill into law, several obstacles continue to persist.
Women continue to be underrepresented in STEM fields. In Ghana, out of the top 3,000 scientists, only 285, that is 9.5%, are females. Indeed, there are currently only 5 female professors of engineering in Ghana. Did you know that? And that includes associate professors like me, not even full professors. This underrepresentation of women has implications for decision-making and complex problem-solving. Research shows that teams with diverse leadership make better decisions 87% of the time because different viewpoints are considered.
A lecturer at the Tamale Technical University, Dr. Arnold Mashood Abukari, said an empowered women's society contributes to the economic growth of the country.
When women are empowered, they are more likely to, 1, participate in workforce and contribute to economic growth, make informed decisions about their health and well-being. They are able to educate their children and break the cycle of poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a need for us to ensure that we get our women to participate in politics and decision-making processes.
The executive director of Feed Ghana, Hikma Babadua, said the motive behind the Her Story Summit is to create a platform for women to tell their own stories.
Basically to amplify the stories of women out there, especially women who have achieved great things in this country, who have done great for themselves, done great for their communities and the country at large. We thought it wise that it is time for women to start telling their own stories. In fact, when you look at the history of this country and history in general, you realize that it is mostly talking about male figures. And if we have young ones who want to become future leaders, future advocates, future politicians, future board members here and there in all sectors, then we need to start telling the stories of women as well and not just men.
On that note, let's get into a business update now with Benjamin Akaku.
Welcome aboard. To kickstart our business update, we start with the currency market. Well, let's slice now into our lone story for the morning. And financial economist Professor Lord Mensah has urged government to leverage the expected waivers from the International Monetary Fund to kickstart the process of a program extension. According to him, despite Ghana missing out on the IMF program targets for last year, the expected waivers should bring some relief to the country in the meeting of new targets. Speaking to Joy Business, Professor Lord Mensah advised government to work at reviewing some of the indicators.
Oh, yes. I mean, once the fund, you see, this is, I think, the fourth time the fund is coming for a review. And once you put your head in the fund, you know, on the side of the fund, I mean, it will be kind of disingenuous to terminate, you know, such contracts because they also benefit one way or the other for extending, you know, such facilities. And once the economy gets in good footing, it also helps the fund. So deep neck into the fund, I'm not expecting that such, you know, economic indicators will stop them from extending the facility. But then maybe give us some kind of, I mean, substance, and then, I mean, extend the. I mean, we should, you know, look at some of the indicators and then, you know, give the IMF certain target and see how we can get those targets in the next few years, 1 year or two. So it will not be, you know, a misplaced, you know, priority if government should, you know, ask for an extension on some of the indicators clearly.
What's the latest on our commodities market? Let's find out. It's been a pleasure serving you our business update for the morning. Handing over back to Sweetie Abochi.
Thanks, Ben. And that ends the AM News Bulletin on the AM Show. Coming up next, News Review. And those who join us, Dr. Ikea Mako, member of the NPP Communications Directorate, Mohammed Bataglia is Member of Parliament for Sisala East. They'll be joining us in a bit. But remember, the AM Show is sponsored by Waylead Properties. We'll be right back.
But before we get to our guests, you know that this show right here, the AM Show, is brought to you courtesy of Waylead Properties. Let me ask you, are you thinking of a rewarding investment you can engage in? Waylead Company Limited is your preferred choice for such an investment. Now, Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with several developments to its credit right here in Accra. So we're inviting you, invest in our new development, Willow Lane, where elegance will meet tranquility right in the heart of Accra. And we also provide quality housing at an affordable cost and also with flexible payment options. At Waylead Properties, we provide you with 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and other social amenities to make your stay a memorable one. What I want you to do now, pick up your phone and give them a call. 0240 111 119 or 0504 499 999. You can also visit them on www.waylead.org. All right, so here we go. We continue with the review now, and joining us this morning, we have from the Communications Directorate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Ikea Mako, and then joining the conversation as well, the Sisala East lawmaker, Mohammed Bataglia, and flanking me on the left, of course, your very own Sweetie Abochi.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the AM Show. Doc, that's a really lovely shirt. Not to discriminate, but yours is also good. Well, let's get into your thoughts for us this morning. You know how we do it. We give our guests a couple of minutes to reflect on anything. Could be of national interest, something you've witnessed. Let me start with you, Mr. Mohammed Bataglia, the honorable member for Sisala East.
Thank you so much, Sweetie. I think, let me first start by saying good morning to everybody. Sweetie, Benjamin, my dear sister here. And a very good morning to the people of Sisala East. What is in my mind this morning is the challenge we face regarding bad roads, especially stretching from Wenchi through Bole, Wa to Tumu. Clearly, the government has a drive to use agriculture in transforming this economy. And by so doing, one would say that that road is a critical artery in terms of trade, commerce, and even social cohesion. But the bad nature of that road has exposed users of that road to many other challenges, ranging from health, security issues, most who locking up agricultural produce in the farm centers.
How long has it been this way?
I think that it's been, or to be honest with you, with that sounding a bit political, normally it's not in that very good shape, but the maintenance used to make it more trouble. But for the past years, I think for about 8 years now, it's been very bad. And today, even if there are pictures around trending where tourists will have to lie in some big gullies, taking pictures, making a mockery of our situation. And as a country, if we intend to make a change, creating jobs using agriculture, then we have to look at how we are linking the cities to the farm centers.
Yeah.
I do not understand why. I told somebody that you are getting those roads done has gone beyond just matters of what convenience, but a potential to unearth our economic fortunes. So I plead that I know the road minister has in recent time hit the road, trying to have a fair idea of what is happening. I'm sure he will very soon get through that route to make sure that it's being worked on. Let me also add by saying that at the tail end of the SY government, I think that a contract has been given from Bole to I hope that this current government will continue with that and even further extend it to Wenchi, down to Tumu, to Bolga, to make it very motorable for many people.
It sounds like some work is being done, so it's just about how effective the work will be and how
honestly,
soon
there's no work being done. It's just a contract bid Right. Yes, they've not started anywhere. I've not seen any machines, and so it's a contract being signed, and we know that it's amounting to 2 billion Ghana cedi. I am sure when the current government will try to look into it and make sure that they expedite work on that.
Right. Doc, your take now.
Hi, good morning. I think I would agree with the honourable member on that. Roads are something that truly affects every aspect of our daily life. The only thing I would like to highlight this morning, again, excuse me if I sound a little too political quite early in the morning, but it's something that has been on my mind since the budget was read last week, and that was how we were essentially promised a lean government, and it has turned out to be anything but that. Not with the numbers, because I think the NDC has done their best to spin and manipulate the number of people that are appointed or the announcements of the people's appointments that have come out, but the figures have betrayed them massively. We are aware that now the budget for salaries for governments at the presidency has increased from about 327 million to about 2.7 billion. That is a very huge jump. And we did hear some rebuttals from the Minister for Government Communications. But again, the numbers really let him down again, because even when you add the entire salary budget for the Ministry of Information and you add the entire salary budget for the National Security Ministry, there's still a huge deficit of about 1 billion left. So in going through the budgets and trying to understand how the budgets of the president has increased from about 8 to about 11 billion, at least we found where 1 billion went in salaries, which I think it would be fair if the people of Ghana get an explanation for that, because we didn't put a gun to their heads for them to promise that we would have a lean government. It was something they came up with on their own. So if for some reason they are unable to stick to what they promised, I think the people of Ghana at least deserve an explanation, a better explanation than what we've been hearing so far.
All I can say to that is, well, today parliamentarians will be debating that budget. Hopefully it comes up and they can ask for clarity on that, and we can all follow that conversation.
Yeah.
I am sure explanations have been given, but it depends on a listener. He chose to listen to the other part, but clearly I think Felix Ofosu-Kwakye has given clear explanations as to how this budget, but I'm even surprised that he's talking, my sister is talking just the increase in budget at the presidency and not looking at the increase in budget in other sectors the government has done. So it runs across, but they also gave a clear cut that even the National Security Ministry is under the presidency and many other agencies. They collapsed about 32, we have 30 before, now it's been collapsed 23. Most of them still run under the office of the government machinery. Based on that, that's why the budget is gone up. It's not just because somebody is padding something somewhere to take. I think we are going to discuss further as to how people take this country's money. And NDC, led by President John Dramani Mahama, has told Ghanaians, and I'm sure he's going to live with that and he will not go renege on his promise.
But you see the confusion, though, that you came on the back of these promises that you're going to run a lean government. Sure. And then when the budget comes out, we find out that you're, pumping more than double the amount that the erstwhile administration did into presidential staffing.
Sweetie,
so that's the concern she's raising.
No, but I think the point is when you establish waste, it's not necessarily the estimates. It is when you establish waste that you can now juxtapose. These are just government estimates.
Okay.
Yes, let's establish waste. I think that will be the argument for now.
All right, so let's get... Ben, should we get straight? Do you have something to share? Right, let's get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper. I'll start with that. Government launches Blue Water Guard Initiative. 2,000 youth to protect water bodies, President Mahama says. And Upper East region, hot weather puts Ghana Health Service on high alert. I think this is cerebrospinal meningitis. Varsity Dawn calls for right leadership towards education reforms. And teacher in court for alleged fraud, $11,000 theft. I want to start with the story of the, Blue Water Guard Initiative and the people, those 400, first phase of 400 youth who's been ushered into that program. So at least 2,000 Ghanaian youth are to receive training necessary to enable them to protect the country's water bodies, particularly rivers, and ensure the restoration of the quality which has been jeopardized by illegal mining. The first phase of the project will involve 400 young Ghanaian men and women who would undergo rigorous training in swimming and other skills provided by the Ghana Navy Riverine Command to make them able to deal with illegal mining operations in the river bodies. Are these the people who can really tackle or deal with? We're talking about, forest under siege to the extent that government or national security, forces, officers cannot engage these people in combat because they have more sophisticated weapons than we do. And then we're training young women and men to take up this fight. What do you make of this?
Well, all these measures being taken, and I think that last week when I was here with my dear sister doctor, she showed a very good passion towards this because it's about environment and we should all be concerned. Clearly, measures have been taken in the past, and we've all at the end saw no much results. But I kept telling myself, sweetie, that it's just like we visited our own home with termite-infested firewoods. Now we are all crying why the lizards invaded our houses. We, as a people, in 2022, enacted a law that allowed people to mine in forest reserves. Today, we are here crying that 44 of our forest reserve areas, 9 of them have completely been taken by people. Even the danger is even that those who are now even serving as guides are not even Ghanaians, they are foreigners. You don't know the training they came with, you don't know where they are background and all that, and they can sound so dangerous. But in this, I remember when we had a meeting with the vice president and then the minister in charge of land. He said that part of his agenda was to look at it because previous ministers also thought about this process to be able to get land and forest, water and forest gas. And he will initiate that, said that right from picking information to investing in technology to be able to identify where gold should be mined, and also regulating people who go into that the area of mining are things that he has to focus on. But though he also said that he wanted to look at the possibility of breaking this problem into several components that individuals from all other angles who are so interested in getting things done should come in to make sure that. But we all do understand. Soldiers went into this, and it ended up being that the corruption superseded them, and they have to come out. A lot of people went into this. But I also say we shouldn't throw our hands in despair. Maybe there's some kind of measure they are bringing with this guard, 400 young people. Maybe they are going to pick relevant information to be able to give to the ministry for them to act. But
you actually painted a picture quite well about the danger that we face. I'm just a little, maybe I need more convincing that these young men and women who will be trained, these are not military personnel. These are just normal men and women who will be trained. Are they well equipped? Will they be able to, engage these people and drive them off from our water bodies? We're talking about people, these illegal miners have weapons.
I don't argue. I think that is because I think our decisions, perceptions, and actions sometimes are governed by what we call self-reference criterion. If there's a background to an issue, you are talking based on what has happened before, and you are just opposing these young men as against very dangerous people living in the forest. And I do agree with you, but I think that there might be strategy to it. Getting the relevant information out of the mainstream could also serve as a good point to tackle this issue. And there are a lot of people like Erastus and many other people have called for a state of emergency to be. All of them are calling on that. And even I remember yesterday I was listening to your line, and the CEO, the acting CEO of EPA also did say that she actually was even saying that she couldn't say that on television, but she felt that something drastic should have happened. People should fly helicopters and shoot because our lives are in danger, which I think that the government with the security system should be able to assess this and look at if we have much more aggressive measures to take to make sure that we save our lives from this.
All right. Doc, let me get your thoughts on this.
So
we are launching... Yes, go ahead.
I think I'm not the only Ghanaian who is very disappointed in the NDC's fight against the galamsey ministers.
Oh, very disappointed.
Very disappointed, sweetie.
How so?
Just, the beautiful thing is it hasn't been too long.
You mean this administration?
Now. It hasn't been too long. It's been about 5, if we go back 5 months, would have been in the previous administration. And we saw what was happening there. When His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa came into office and decided to fight the galamsey menace, he did all of these things. There were different types of law enforcement agencies that were empowered to go and then fight the menace using the normal law enforcement tactics that we have. That has been tried. Everybody in this country agrees it did not go the way we want. We did not get the results that we sought to get from that. So you come, and we have a sitting president, His Excellency John Mahama, who, when he was campaigning, said, I'm going to let these small-scale miners out. Then he comes into government. So we expected a completely different approach so that we can actually be a little hopeful that this different approach will yield some results. But he comes and is the same playbook.
But aren't we seeing more arrests and seizures of excavators than we saw under your administration in 8 years?
2017 and see the number of excavators that were seized and the number of arrests. Even getting to the end of 2024, the number of arrests that was made, we've all come to the conclusion that that approach is not the most effective. And we have a president who said those people that were arrested at that time, he was going to grant them amnesty. So you come and there's nothing new, there's no innovation, and the only thing you can also do is to go ahead. Today we see 7 Ghanaians arrested, 3 Chinese. This was been going on for a very long time. And this issue of river guards is something that we started implementing actually, getting to the tail end of 2024. I think we call them river wardens or so. And that was supposed to be part of a bigger plan to revolutionize that sector and actually drive some change. But I'm not seeing that kind of different approach. You cannot keep doing the same thing over and over and over and expect a different result. I think that's something that we've all said over and over since we were children.
Can you, in good conscience, say that since this administration took office and the work they're doing, I mean, of course, they're not what people are asking for, the state of emergency to seize all small-scale and illegal mining activities for a proper strategic way forward. They're not doing that, but are you saying that the work they've done in the few months they've been in office, I mean, against this galamsey fight, is not impressive?
What work have they done? Last week when we were here, we were talking about the constituency organizer that stopped the people. No, I'm just segueing there very briefly. And Ben said, oh, something has been said about it. So when I went back, I actually sat down and combed. I didn't see anything from the presidency as to what has happened to that person. So yes, sweetie, again, I ask, what different thing has happened? Because I can go through we can just go through Google right now and search arrest of illegal miners between 2020 and you see several. Leading up to the election, there were several arrests. In 2017, there were several arrests. In fact, the then Attorney General came to say that the highest number of people that have been passed through our judicial system for illegal mining happened under our tenure. So we expected the people that were shouting state of emergency, call for a ban on all small-scale mining, to do something more monumental or at least different.
Okay. Then before I get to other stories, galamsey.
On galamsey, I have seen my friend Darryl Bosu, deputy head of Arusha, Ghana, post that he doesn't think the river guards situation would help much because, like Dr. Ikuamwa has been mentioning, Dr. Akpamwako, I beg your pardon, Ikuamwako, I've joined your two names together. Dr. Ikuamwako was saying it's been attempted in the past. I disagree. I think every little bit we can do with this Blue Water Initiative should be done because these galamseyers are even kicking out military officials. They are outgunning them. So I think the war should be on all fronts at all times. It's kind of like a Boko Haram situation we have on our hands where they are in the Sambisi or Sambisa forest, and sometimes we will be told in Nigeria that the military can't get into the forest and do all kinds of things. My issue, though, is that we're still expectant. The Minister for Environment, Science and more, Mutala, has been put to the sword. He's been pinned, and he's actually been very forthcoming with information on LI 2462, and he's spoken on the floor of Parliament about it. I want LI 2462 to go. It's a blot on our conscience as a country that we even passed LI 2462. Then I'm also happy with the EPA boss, Professor Brown Kluche, talking about her support for a state of emergency. I don't know what else it will take, but I think we are at that point, and we should get past that hurdle very quickly.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Just let me run through the remaining stories here and then we go to another paper. Support cashew farmers with low-interest loans to boost production. Cashew Watch Ghana is saying that. Ghana's constitution grants excessive power to president, according to Professor Prempe, Prof Kwesi Prempe. And Star Ghana Foundation to establish Northern Disaster Fund. There's a story here. 150 Ghanaians affected by U.S. immigration policies, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, has disclosed that 150 Ghanaians, including 4 children, have been affected by recent immigration policies in the United States of America. He, however, assured that the government has put in place measures to receive the returnees upon arrival to Ghana. And on the back page, 3 institutions donate neonatal machine incubators to Children's Hospital, and AHF, that is AIDES Hub Foundation, hosts summit on universal health access. Any of these stories pique your interest? And we can get into it a bit before we move on to another paper. Yes, last one. Let me add this to it. So the Upper West Regional Directorate of the Ghana Health Service has warned against a possible spike in the cases of cerebrospinal meningitis following extremely hot weather conditions being experienced in the region. Consequently, it has placed the region on high alert in order to contain any possible outbreak of epidemic proportions. Is it that hot at this time of the...
Very hot.
It's rather cold down here.
Very hot. Very hot. You remember in about a couple of weeks ago, I indicated that, yes, we are called by our faith to experience fasting, yet we should do that cautiously, depending on where we are, because this time around, I'm told the weather there is quite terrible. Yeah. And I think that we should, as people, take precautions, make sure that we ventilate our homes as much as possible. We should be able to take a lot of liquids, avoid overcrowded gatherings and all that. There was a time where they even have to stop most of funerals and other functions being taking place around this time, especially in March. So I sincerely hope that education should sink down properly to the people. They should go into they should use the local languages in the local radio stations to educate people. Let the officers move from community to community to let people understand that. Otherwise, it's becoming one too many. We've lost quite a number of people through this problem. It's perennial, and it comes in different forms every year. Yeah. I'm sure we should be able to take
now that they've put on high alert, hopefully we can take precautionary measures to nip it in the bud. Dr. Kiyamwako, do you have which newspaper do you have?
I have Economy Times and the New Republic.
Let's get into your stories.
Let's start from...
The New Republic.
We'll get to the New Republic.
Why are you avoiding the New Republic?
Just by some means, this was on top.
All right, sure.
Yes, so we'll get to the New Republic. Okay. So there's IMF key stakeholders to determine improved new VAT system. Ghana classified as high risk of debt distress as total external liability stand at $28.3 billion. 2025 budget puts restoration of stability before economic expansion. Great. And I think the story I would want to go in is something on page 17, review of the 1992 Constitution, too late or too early. I'll just skip to the opinion polls on which of the acts that people want amended. Yeah. So although the committee is yet to complete its tasks, opinion polls suggest that most Ghanaians would like to see many changes or amendments to it, including but not limited to appointment of ministers, which is the Article 78, which states that ministers of state shall be appointed by the president with prior approval of parliament from among members of parliament. So that's the first one. I'll just skip to the second one, which focuses on dual citizenship, which is Article 8. And then Article 276 on chieftaincy could also be very much considered for a review. I don't see why. Article 89, which makes provision for establishment of Council of State. So I think the issues of the constitutional review, lots of conversations have been going on, and I hope we would have come more to the criminal side of the Constitution, because I think that would actually deal with the average Ghanaian a lot more. So the New Republic...
But these issues also concern the Ghanaian.
Yes, I agree. But do you really believe that we should allow chiefs to participate in active politics when they are still chiefs? I think that's
What danger do you see there?
That muddies the waters too much. They occupy a different class of in the social hierarchy. So I think it should still be separated. And I can't really find anywhere across the world currently, well, maybe in a few countries, where there's still that union of the monarchies and the chieftaincy institutions and government. I think the world evolved to a point where they are separate for a reason. And so there's no need to go back, especially on that point.
We've actually seen a lot of chiefs. I mean, the lead up to election 2024, we saw a lot of chiefs endorsing political candidates, presidential candidates. And
that's something that should continue to happen. I think they should still, as you know, nobody's truly neutral. But as best as possible, I think it's best that they maintain that neutrality for the sanctity of the electoral process.
Mr. Batakla, what do you think about
What
this?
I think is that the bigger umbrella problem to me is the winner-take-all syndrome. If we are able to institute laws and enforce them, that will make sure that the vulnerable will be taken care of. Because it sounds like once somebody is in power, almost everybody tilts towards that to get their own share. So you get chiefs behaving in a manner that they know deep down themselves that they shouldn't have. Everybody wants to catch, even with the issue of ministerial issues. There's a conversation where you read, people are talking about the powers given to the executive, the president. Everybody is acting in one way or the other to please a president or to please the executive just because they want something. And I'm sure if the laws have made it possible that even if you're a minister, your conditions of service shouldn't be that completely different from the ordinary person working at the ministry. There wouldn't be any incentive apart from serving the country. So I do agree to some extent. I think that if we want to be honest, if we can, ideal situation, I agree with my sister, a doctor, that yes, we shouldn't do that. But what is happening now, it means that we ourselves, our conduct, we portray us as people who are not firm on the laws that we set for ourselves. Chiefs, boldly, some of them will come on air, clearly. Some of them are even actually whipping their subordinates to go a particular line. And I think that we should be able to look at it. This argument is now clearly being likened to that of what? The municipal and district chief executive issue. As to whether they should be elected partisan in the partisan line or that. And I think we should begin to look at it. It's good that these conversations are coming up.
I really cannot wait to see what the committee comes up with.
My take on that, I think we're on a slippery slope as a country when it comes to our chiefs and traditional leaders are already muddying the waters of our politics because I think they are excessively involved. I think we should stick to what the 1992 Constitution says and not allow chiefs and other traditional rulers to be active participants. It didn't say they couldn't have an opinion. It didn't say they couldn't vote for party X or Y. It didn't say they couldn't be nice to X or Y. I feel active participation in politics is a recipe for disaster. We're already on that trajectory. Opening it this way would just create more of a termite's nest, if you like. But let's look at other examples. In the UK, they've found a way of merging their parliamentary system with a monarchical system for centuries. And it's clear the king or queen plays certain ceremonial roles, and that is it. And they found a way of working together. Look at the other side, the East, Japan. Same thing happens there. They have a monarchy. Go to the European countries, Denmark and the rest. I don't know why we insist on doing things the way we do. And I also don't understand why chiefs, I feel if I were a chief, I would be very, like she said, nobody is really completely 100% neutral unless there are certain specific issues. But I feel you could be a chief and the NDC person comes, oh, you're very welcome, and treat the person nicely. The MPP person comes, so it would be even difficult for people to tell. But some chiefs, they show face. It's so open, and I think that is so wrong, and it's not what we ought to be doing as a country. So opening up this way, I think will just open a can of worms, Mike.
Do you want to tell us what's on the Republic newspaper that you've been avoiding for so
I will tell you. I will just say
just the headlines
for last. Okay. Yeah. So the first that we have is being a female judge in Ghana is extremely tough. I can see how that's probably all around the world. GPRTU spare parts.
Who said that?
Who said that?
Mama Bobi III. Yes. GPRTU spare parts dealers dispute MPP drivers, as Laurie first said. I don't really understand what that means. How do you know who's an MPP driver? President shuffles top military brass. We saw that. Who polices the police? Ex-Iyoko boss squanders 30 million exhibit cash.
Is that what you've been avoiding?
I wasn't avoiding it. It's well,
Yeah, no.
It's a bombshell if it is true. But I think when these things come up, it is important to uphold that value of seeing people as innocent till they are proven otherwise. So I think it will be prudent to see where the investigation into this matter leads, and that's COPTWA has an opportunity to tell us what this means. Because I tried to read through the story a little, and basically what it's saying is that money has been moved from the exhibit accounts. Let me just read a little for you. Startling revelations have emerged regarding the mismanagement and misapplication of funds within the Economic and Organized Crime Office, implicating the agency's former executive director, Mame Atiwa Adodankwa, the top official and top official of the MPP government, really.
Okay, let's do some other stories.
Okay.
Mr. Bazaglia.
Well, I have the catalyst here. We have a story from the Minister of Health that 20 million Ghana cedi worth of opioid drugs seized at the Tema port. This issue has become topical last time we spoke about. A tickling time bomb as another galamsey disaster is waiting to happen at Konongo, Odumasi. I'm talking about it. We will come for you if you fail to show up. OSP Des Oforiata. The joy returns to Ghana police over Dr. George Oparis Damparis remover. So for me, I want to look at
the opioid problem.
Opioid problem. I'm not really getting the people here. I wanted to look at the joy returns after Damparis removal.
Okay.
Yeah, they say the announcement of the removal of the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufu Dampare, was greeted with wild jubilations in various police barracks and stations across the country, whereas some of the officers resorted to social media and mainstream media to express their joy, thanking President John Dramani Mahama for his removal. Others were visibly seen expressing their joy, jumping to the news and dishing out loud music in the barracks. Considering the momentous occasions of freedom, liberty, and sanity being reinstated, coupled with triumph over evil, I am at a loss to understand how I am expected to sleep on a day like today. Clearly, this wouldn't have been a problem because I think that change of governments normally will come with a change of what? The top security architecture. One would have thought that this is done to make sure that we strengthen our security systems. But to me, I think that, well, I do not have a challenge for him being moved because he should have known that too. He has been there. But where people are so jubilant to the extent that they splash out money, it tells a different story, that it is you against us. Like you have lost, we have won. And by that, we want a cohesive system to be able to make sure that we protect lives and property in this country. I will advise that in subsequent times when these things happen, people should understand that they are for professional reasons and make sure that the president has a vision and can only achieve that through some other people. When that is done, it's not because somebody has lost or somebody has won. No.
I think it's cute, and I'm going to say this without saying anything at all, that we saw photos of the president, shaking hands with the chiefs of, it was a fire, immigration, and prisons. But Dr. George Akufu Dampare was nowhere to be seen. And in fact, there was a statement put out to, express appreciation, and it was not he himself that put out the statement. It was his assistant, I think. I think it's really curious, but I'll just leave it there. Dr. Giamako.
I don't really have too much to say on this. I think this is one of the things that I would agree with my good brother here. Really? If there's a new government, the security apparatus is something that they should have trust in. And I don't know if it's the law, but at least by convention, it's something that has always happened. New president, new IGP. Sometimes even when in the same government, in the same party, there's a new leader, they do sometimes even change the head of the police. So I don't think this is anything that is surprising. I think all of this is probably coming up because this current IGP was, should I say, popular? Yes, a lot more of what he did was followed by a lot more of us. So I think that's what the heightened interest is. But this is nothing new, and it was it should have been expected by all involved.
My concern is the police, the jubilation within the police.
Jubilation.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Otherwise, changing somebody.
What story does it tell you?
No, but to me, I
mean, outside, it looks like Dr. Jojo Kubudampare was celebrated.
Yeah.
I knew children who knew the name of the IGP. Growing up, I didn't know who the IGP was. But then it turns out that it wasn't all that.
People were saying he's more of social media and the media person rather than...
well, let's do one more story from you, and then we go to Ben's paper.
Okay, then we have the second one, 20 million worth of opioid drugs seized at Tema Port. Health Minister Honorable Kwabena Minta Akando has expressed government's resolve to stop the attempts to use Ghana as a transit hub for unauthorized drugs. In as much as we are facilitating trade in this country, we will not allow Ghana to be a safe haven for unauthorized drugs, including opioid, he declared.
So 20 million CDs worth of opioid drugs seized at Tema Port.
Sweetie, you remember the last time I was saying that most people were looking at the pharmaceutical centers we have here. I'm saying that we have very porous borders that people should look at. These things are even much more common at the rural areas than even the cities. And that is what we should look at, because the bigger challenge we face is because people can get access to this. And if they start this, they should be able to comb through everything and be very candid with issues. I am sure we are losing our generation that would otherwise be very productive into drugs. And that is creating a very big challenge for us.
Very soon we won't say galamsey is a drug problem, because we have a drug problem proper.
Yeah,
you know, this is scary. 20 million
very scary.
CDs worth of opioids seized at Tema Port. Doc?
Yeah, so on this matter of drugs, it's something that can easily degenerate into a terrible situation, and we've seen it happen in cities across the world. And another effect that this issue has on the health system that, you know, is hardly ever discussed is that then now prescribers don't even want to prescribe the required amount of pain medication needed. It's something I've always said in Ghana, that we don't take pain medication too serious. You can be in pain where the scale is like 8/10 and they'll give you paracetamol because there's so much of a fear that is going to be abused. And the more these stories come up, that means the more you are going to be given paracetamol even when you're in serious pain and would have otherwise required an opioid. So it's something that I think we need to discuss at length to be able to come up with very constructive ways of dealing with it, because even countries that are way more resourced than we are struggling with this. It's something that we cannot add to our troubles, as it were.
For me, I think beyond the seizure, we should actually track down whoever is responsible and make sure that they face justice. Because
it can be very difficult. Because if I'm a pharmaceutical company, I do have that right. I don't know if the right is, yes, I'm allowed to import opioids because there is like a need for it. So that makes it quite difficult.
But it was seized. There must be a reason why it was seized.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that if it was seized, it means that it was up to no good, and so they have to track whoever is responsible, so that we are sure that we are not just seizing drugs, but we are actually nipping the problem in the bud.
For Niger.
Yes. And what I'm saying is, it's possible that it was, even if it's a front, it's a legitimate pharmaceutical company, so it ties your hands as to what you can do about it.
Anyway, Daily Graphic now. Ben, if you would please.
Just because I have the opioid story here, I will just get into it as well, because part of the problem is that if you watch the BBC documentary, it's not just about the opioids. And by the way, they are narcotics as well, as you are fully aware. And we've had a narcotics problem in this country at some point within the Kufuor administration, and then feeding outside of it. And usually, I'm only mentioning that because of timelines, but we had a serious problem to the point where there were some bans on Ghana, if you recall.
Even codeine.
And indeed, there were some bans on Ghana, and it became pretty problematic. In a way, we were recognized as some sort of feeding into a narco status. And we were able to get out of that. We fell back into that trap sometime later. I've forgotten whether that was Mills or Mahama, and then it was dealt with. So these are very problematic for us, especially if you read the story where it talks about all of these, mixtures, tapentadol, 250 milligram. And sometimes it's not even just the drug, it's the strength of it. So maybe if you are supposed to for pain relief, take 5 milligrams.
Yeah.
They are giving you maybe 100, 200. You're killing yourself. You know, all of these. 160 cartons of Tafradol, which came up in the BBC documentary, 40 cartons of tapentadol in 120 milligram strength. It's really worrying, and I think it's something that, as a country, because we have galamsey, we have other issues to deal with. You don't want to add an opioid crisis to your bid. And we also have to be diligent because in the end, we are basically being used to traffic. So it comes here, part of it will affect your population, but you are serving as a route for other countries to also be affected. And we have to deal with that situation.
Most will actually end at the mining centers.
Indeed.
Yes, most will end.
Indeed. Those who do very hard work,
that's what, yes,
in the mining area. But you must clarify because it's galamsey we are talking about.
Yes, galamsey, yeah.
Usually
okay, galamsey, let me use that term.
But then this story I wanted to highlight before we get to the other important stories. Glaucoma blinding Ghanaians. I don't know, it's just yesterday I was having quite an in-depth conversation with somebody. So the story says, health experts and stakeholders have urged Ghanaians to take proactive steps. Go and get your eyes checked. To prevent glaucoma, a leading cause of irreversible blindness. Once you get blind through glaucoma, there's nothing you can do. And speaking at a press launch of the World Glaucoma Week 2025 in Accra, the Director of Eye Care Secretariat at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Afake Honameto, revealed that Ghana had the highest prevalence of glaucoma in Africa.
Wow.
And pointed out that people of African ancestry were 5 times more likely to develop glaucoma than other races, making the condition a critical public health issue. You look at things like cervical cancer and the rest, you look at prostate cancer, and I think some things are more, we tend to get it more, and then in other countries, they tend to get other things more, so we have to watch out. But the statistics are alarming. Nearly 60,000 Ghanaians are already blind due to glaucoma, and over 360,000 people are unaware that they have the disease. So, I mean, these points, it just tells you, and maybe just to highlight this point, maybe something government can do. It says we must remove taxes on glaucoma medications, equipment, and consumables to make treatment affordable. That is what Mr. Abutiate said. And he is president of the Glaucoma Patients Association of Ghana. I'll start with you since you're in the medical field. What do you make of glaucoma? What do you see when you give consultancy?
Well, that would be for the eye specialist, but I mean,
you're right.
Yeah, but it has to do with increased pressure in the eye. So usually they check for eye pressure. And I did a test for glaucoma, I think somewhere in 2020 when I was doing my first year house job at Ridge. And it's a very seamless process. So all I would do is to advocate that a lot of people do, because it's not something you might think you can wait till you're older to check. But I was surprised to see that I already had an increased pressure in my eye. So it's something that you should check. It doesn't take too long. Most of the government hospitals that have an eye department are able to tackle that. So it's something that we should check out. And the issue that I found very important, which I think the whole country should get behind, is to find a way to waive some of the taxes on these medical supplies and equipment, because the private sector in health is growing, and one of the biggest burdens is the taxes on importation of these equipment. So even if you are able to buy the machine, then you are paying about maybe a third of the cost price in trying to get it into the country. If we waive all of these things, it will also boost the private sector, and then it will go a long way to ensure that most Ghanaians have access to quality health care.
All right, Mohammed, and on that point, so I think it's recommended, from what I recall, that once you hit 40, going, but now it's even better to start before that. I started checking my prostate a long time ago, before I got to the age where I should have been.
Why are you so afraid?
Better safe than sorry. But it's advised that once you hit 40 and above, you should start checking. I don't know whether you've been checking. I'm putting you on the spot.
I've been checking. Though not a medical doctor like my sister, but I think I've also worked in this space for close to 15 years.
I see.
I still even act as a country director for Virtue Foundation. For the past 12, 13 years, we have been bringing medical doctors, top-notch medical doctors from US and then Austria.
Okay.
We go to the rural areas, the Upper West Regional Hospital, the Tumu Municipal Hospital, and many other places. And one of the people we'll bring is Dr. Cole, Charles Cole. He's a top-most ophthalmologist. Basically, when he comes, we try to look at issues of glaucoma. But you see, our people are more comfortable with cataract issues. And even most of our eye specialists who do not want to focus so much on glaucoma, they think that sometimes, I don't know why, she's in that, but most of them want to do with the basic things and just, but he said that they have to start the checkup very early. And I remember in Tumu, we screened one young girl, and he said, no, I have to conduct a surgery on this lady, this young girl. And they asked him why. He said, no, we have to stop it because she wouldn't realize the effect now. But as she grows, the eyes will go off. But if I stop it now, in future, she will be able to see and live her life. So we went to the extent whilst we were even in the regional hospital asking people to come, people were discouraged from even coming for those checkups. So I think that there should be much education because the only thing that can keep you very active is your eyes. But most people think that no, it's a wasted effort and I don't know.
Wow.
And even sometimes we have to link up. Even one other challenge we also have is that I think most of the eye specialists, like ophthalmologists, are not that very common at the northern sector. Right. We even have to link. Yes, we have to link with Dr. Matilda from Kumasi to get her to come to support in case of post-surgery issues when we leave. All those things. I think that we should be able to train more ophthalmologists to be able to get to the rural or maybe the rural Ghana to support. Otherwise, a lot of people are facing this challenge.
So some people close to me, quite a number of people close to me, elderly people have had cataract surgery. Yes. The bit is that for that one, it's very visible. Very visible. It's on the eye. So you can see it. But for glaucoma, like many people say, it's a silent destroyer. You will not see it. And the problem too is that usually one thing, if something affects one eye, it affects the other.
The other eye, exactly.
Even if it's not glaucoma or anything. Usually when you feel something on one eye, it will find a way. I don't know whether the optic nerves are linked. You are the medical person. So it's very dangerous. And it's something that I think we need systems, like Doc mentioned as well, to ensure that the taxes on these products, the medication, are lowered, and that I don't know how we can do it. In Kenya and other places, they have systems for medical checkups so that annually there are certain things you must do. Here, because of a largely informal sector, I think many people, but there should be ways of encouraging it, whether using your SNIT or using your health insurance or something, there must be a way of ensuring. Because if you have a population going blind, and we have the highest rate in Africa, do you know what this does to your workforce? I mean, but
very important thing we take for granted,
You guys are scaring me straight here. I like that. No, I like the conversation because I'm one of the guilty people. I should be wearing glasses, but sometimes I just get tired of it and I don't wear it. So when I hear stories like this, I know. So when I hear stories like this, I'm like, well, I have to wear my glasses.
I can relate to you on that one.
You wear glasses too?
But it's only in my car, and it's when I really cannot see when I'm driving. I know I shouldn't be admitting this.
Yeah, we really shouldn't be admitting this on national TV.
Because look, let's face it. Growing up, I teased people a lot.
Yeah.
4 eyes, 4 eyes, 4 eyes. So when I got to India, I was like, hey, you're new to you know, that kind of thing.
Now you have 4 eyes.
But the point is, if you have to use glasses, use them.
You'll
be doing damage to yourself. Let's make tracks. Experts demand lower lending rates as T-bill rates tumble. I'll go through this very quickly. So the Dean of the University of Cape Coast School of Business, Professor Gachi, has urged policymakers to ensure that the drop in T-bill rates aligns with lending rates in the country. So that's very simple. I've heard Dr. Kwachi of the IEA say that the fall in the prices of T-bill rates is artificial because you have inflation around 20-something% and T-bill rates are at 17%. So we have to find a way of ensuring that they are commensurable. You also have Mr. Pianim also talking about that. He said the government's net funding requirements approximately, okay, so he spoke about that issue, but it goes on and on. I want to quickly look at the story on page 13. Page 13. So stakeholders propose special military unit for forest protection. So from
Blue
Water, there's also the Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, Dr. Hugh Brown, who has called for the setting up of a special unit in the Ghana Armed Forces for the protection of the country's forest reserves against illegal mining. He said the destruction of forest reserves by heavily armed illegal miners had reached an alarming proportion, requiring the deployment of the military to safeguard the resource, about 30 of which are globally significant biodiversity areas. So we are destroying our environment, flora, fauna, and the very things that maybe even UNESCO has given us props for. I don't know what your take is,
just to say,
I am done.
Dr. Mwaku and her government didn't do us good by enacting LI 2462.
Yes, but you are in power now.
No, that's exactly why.
We're also in Parliament.
No, remember I just said that we visited our home with termite-infested firewood. And now we are blaming ourselves because some people gave the opportunity for people to enter legally.
I mean, we all agree it shouldn't have started.
So today, the pressure is on us.
But it has started. You have the power now.
To the extent that even the Minister of Environment is telling everybody that we have to even overlook the pre-laying procedures to make sure that this thing is being done either today or tomorrow. Remember, it just shows how committed NDC, led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, is to be able to. We
agree, but get it done.
It will be done. I am part of it. Fortunately, it's coming to our committee. I'm part of the subsidiary legislation, so it's coming to our committee to look into it, and we are going to fast track it to make sure that that is done properly.
I think it's going to go beyond repealing the LI, because if you look at it critically, even before this LI was passed, people were in the forest reserve. So I know for a fact it will not be as simple as repealing it. The LI, a lot of people ask, why was it even implemented? And the little research I've done, I'm thinking that the thinking behind that is already going on. If you read the wording of the LI, it's actually to protect certain parts of the forest reserves and make them no-go areas, while allowing some sort of mining in certain parts. Obviously, it's been greatly abused and whatnot, and you promised to repeal it, so repeal it. But I'm sitting here and telling you very confidently that it will go beyond that, because even before that LI was done to try and regularize and bring some sanity to that, what was already going on. A lot of it was going on, and so many hectares of our forest reserves had already been degraded prior to the passing of the LI. So again, I'm going to ask my brothers and sisters in the NDC, it is going to take more than talk, it is going to take more than river guards, it's going to take more than repealing the LI to bring some sanity into our environmental issues.
We will also take the minority.
Oh, we are here and willing to support them.
Especially as you brought an LI that we all know, I'm sure in all good conscience.
You've given people legal entry.
When you look at, I mean, that was probably not the best way to handle it, because if somebody is already doing something, you want to tell them, I'm sure the thinking was that, okay, you were already doing it, but I want to limit you to just this place. But then it goes a long way to destroy public opinion, and it's been abused. It's something we were going to repeal, and so we hope that now that you are in power, you repeal it. Well, and on the matter of galamsey, Dr. Bawumia had fantastic ideas. And I said it last week, I'm saying it again.
What were those ideas?
If you need help, you can ask him.
He wouldn't want to do them.
You just said Dr. Bawumia had fantastic ideas. Okay. Give me just two of those ideas. Maybe the NDC will pick up on it.
You need to pay me for this thing.
Really?
But one of the things he was proposing was to be able to set up common user facilities, to set up settlement dams, so that the water, those who actually have proper concessions, the concession will be dammed. So whatever water you are using to refine or wash your gold doesn't go back into the river, and you can reuse that.
And illegal miners will actually follow this?
No, so this was more of something, and then common user facilities. So for whoever in the community that's engaging in mining, you all go to one place to be able to use the mercury-free gold catcher machine.
Illegal miners.
Another slogan.
They are the ones.
Just to add, these are not new proposals.
Yes,
you know that.
It's another slogan.
Well, that's what we went into the campaign promise with. There are other people that are practicing this kind of small-scale mining, and they are doing it and doing it sustainably. There's even a prof, I don't know if you know of him, if that's the one I can't seem to remember the name, but he is doing the settlement dams and all of that. We're also going to do common user facilities. So you are not in your own place using cyanide to break it. You just take whatever you've made to the common user facility. You use the mercury-free gold catcher machine, and you have your gold.
It's a beautiful words.
Yes, so I'm saying that if you have to use a lot of other policies.
What we are saying.
Yes, but to just send river guards.
No, the challenge is you giving people legal rights.
Well, ladies, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for News Review segment this morning. Those who join us, Dr. Ekuya Mwako, member of the NPP Communications Directorate. Mr. Mohammed Bataglia is member of Parliament for Sisala East. Now, before we go, I do want to remind you that every year, thousands of Ghana's brightest minds seek better prospects abroad, leaving a gap in our workforce. Now, the question is, how can Ghana inspire talent to stay? You want to join David Ufusu-Dote, Professor Mary Setrana, and Her Excellency Dr. Amina Gurib Fakim, former president of Mauritius, as the 12th edition of the Ishmael Janssen and Associates Business Roundtable to discuss managing the talent exodus, leveraging private-public partnerships for growth. This is happening on the 7th of May 2025 at Labone Beach Hotel. It starts at 9 a.m. sharp, and to register your attendance, simply text your name and organization to this number, 0530-117-202, or simply send an email to info@ieyamson.com. Well, we'll be back, and then we get more conversations going on the AM show.
Time to bring you the latest from the world of sports. My name is Haruna Mubarak. We start with the senior national team, the Black Stars, where Captain Jordan Ayew has arrived in the country ahead of the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. The 33-year-old is expected to join the training session later today, with others including Thomas Partey and Mohamed Kudus also expected to follow suit. Now, less than 10 players were available yesterday for the team's first training session. My colleague Joseph Eyinga Walter was there and filed this report.
Out of 26 players, only 9 Black Stars players were present here at Accra Sports Stadium for their first training session ahead of their crucial World Cup qualifier against Chad and Madagascar. Now, those in attendance included Kamaldeen Sulemana, Mohamed Salisu, Gideon Mensah, Benjamin Asari, Kamaradini Mamudu, and among others. Head coach Otuado and technical advisor Winfred Scaffer and assistant head coach Desmond Ofer supervised training. The rest of the players are expected to be in camp tomorrow, with Otuado hopeful of having a full house for training session tomorrow. Some fans expressed their delightment and satisfaction without things at turnout and are hopeful that the Black Stars delivers come Friday.
Once we have the same points as Comoros, it's just a matter of goal difference. We need to beat Chad by more than 3 goals, beat Madagascar by 2 goals, and I think we'll top the table. So I think the chances of Ghana qualifying for the World Cup is quite high, and I hope that this team, with the new year, there will be a fresh leaf, a new page, and then we'll see an improved performance from the coach. I want to see what Coach Desmond Ofer has to say, has to offer to the technical team. I want to see what the new technical advisor Winfred Schaefer has to offer. So I think it's interesting what we are seeing. It's only early days yet. The match day will determine the verdict.
What I'm expecting from Black Stars this coming Friday is nothing but win. Because my area, Nigerians are really laughing at us, making fans of us, making very fun of us. So we want win, but nothing. And then the lineup to me alone as a person, I was expecting to still see this Dede Ayew. People have been talking that Dede is old, he's weak, but he's still calling at his team. Dede is calling over there. I don't know why people are saying that Dede, because the experience he has, Dede should have been fixed in this match to help us to qualify.
I'm a little bit disappointed because I think I've heard that a lot of players have arrived. So I'm even shocked that we are seeing like 4 or 5 players training today. We have to be serious. Yeah.
And what did you, from your first impression on technical advisor Winfred Scaffer and then Otuado and then his assistants, Desmond Affairs, to be specific, what do you make of him? His first?
Oh, I think it's quite okay. Yeah, and then all we have to do now is we should give them the support that they need, and then give us the result that we needed. Yeah.
Reporting from Accra Sports Stadium for Joy Sports, Joseph Eyinga Walter.
Now, the World Cup qualifier against Chad on Friday will come off, obviously, at the Accra Sports Stadium. However, former CAF Deputy Secretary General Anthony Bafo is warning about the current stadium protocols in the country. He believes that leaders should take action now to address the issues before something bad happens.
You see, when I walk, they call me no-nonsense. And these are the things we always take personal. But there's nothing personal when we work because we want to do the best and have the best for the country. So what does it need? A strong leadership and decision-making skills, experience in sports and facility management. There are a lot of young guys who are here who have studied sports management, strategic management. Involve them. Knowledge of stadium operations and event planning, financial budget management competence, safety and security awareness, ability to manage staff and coordinate departments, strong communication and public relations skills, technical knowledge of infrastructure and maintenance, compliance with regulatory and sports policies, crisis management and emergency response training. If I speak about crisis management, I don't think we think about crisis. One thing I've learned in Germany is always to think about the aftermath, positive or negative. In Germany, we always said before the game is after the game, and after the game is before the game. Sometimes when we come into the Accra Sports Stadium, we see the VIP, thousands of cars in front. So when there's an evacuation, it's going to be catastrophic. But in Ghana, we always say, "Ebeye, nyame wo," until really something happens. So these things really need to change.
Now, the Ghana Rugby Football Union has a new president in Rafatu Inusa, who ran unopposed at the elective assembly. She replaces Herbert Mensah and will head the federation for the next 4 years. A new board was also elected to steer the affairs of the federation. There is more in this report.
Uphold the constitution and laws of the Ghana Rugby Association.
A new chapter has begun for Ghana Rugby as newly elected executives take the oath of office charged with leading the Rugby Football Union for the next 4 years. The transition follows the election of Herbert Mensah as president of Rugby Africa and subsequent dissolution of the previous board. It was a smooth process as Rafatu Inusa, who ran unopposed, was elected as the federation's head until 2029. She will be supported by Vice President Emmanuel Benfi.
I'd like to thank the Almighty God for making this day very possible, and to thank all the people here today who grace these occasions. You have federations, you have countries, you have World Rugby and Rugby Africa representative. And to my team, I call them team because we are going to tirelessly work together to make sure that Ghana Rugby is well represented. And so today, I'm happy and proud of all of us, not myself. And I'm very humbled that today, these stakeholders of Ghana Rugby made the decision to elect not only myself, but the other board members to be able to run the affairs of Ghana Rugby Football Union.
Meanwhile, Prince Kweku, Emmanuel Carlos, Abdul Said Semed, and Sakut Amenga Itego were also elected unopposed as board members, with Anita Atieku taking up the role of women's representative. The elections drew the presence of key stakeholders, including World Rugby's Dave Gilbert and the acting director general of the National Sports Authority, Yao Ampofo Ankra.
I think this is something you should all be very proud of. And I wish this is not the unopposed, but I wish this is how elections are held, where we can all agree. There must have been some good consultations and dialogue behind the scenes to arrive at, such a smooth elections. And I hope that this is the beginning of greater and better things for Ghana Rugby, certainly setting the pace as always. The work starts from here. I'm sure you will not rest on your oars at all. You need to work double hard to ensure that the standards you've set continues to be maintained. Madam President, congratulations. I'm confident that your leadership style and skill will be leading Ghana Rugby into better years ahead.
With their mandate now official, Rafatu and her team carry the hopes of further revitalizing Ghana Rugby and ensuring a stronger representation on the African stage. That's it for sports on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. Have a good morning.
Welcome back. You're still watching the AM show on Joy News, and we're getting into our big stories because President John Dramani Mahama has effected some changes in the military hierarchy days after shaking up that of prisons, fire service, and immigration service, as well as the Ghana Police Service. Now, what does these leadership changes mean for the security of the state? And are these changes in line with best practices? We'll be getting into the conversation shortly. Joining us, our guest via Zoom, we have Dr. Victor Doke. He's a security analyst. Doc, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Well, I'm here with Benjamin, and we'll be steering the conversations. I want us to start with a concern you raised. I read your article dated, I think, 5th January this year about possible military changes in the leadership and the implications of that. Really, what were you trying to say to us? Looks like your predictions came through, but you tell us, what were you trying to warn us about in the first place?
Yeah, thank you very much, and then good morning to you, and then to your cherished viewers. So first of all, I was looking at the aspect of the outgoing president having to, promote the service chiefs, okay, to 4-star and 3-star respectively, and then the implications it will have on the incoming government, whether it should be maintained or not. And then you're looking at the back where, this is a sensitive institution whereby we hope and wish that politics will not creep into it as much as, it has done across board with the other, security services. But then it was something that I thought, and then so let me make a projections out of it with regards to not only the service chiefs, the police department, the intelligence bureaus and all of that, and then the special focus on Boko and all of that. So it was something that I looked at and then saw that with this kind of appointments that will be coming in, and which are already coming, it's going to pose somewhat of a problem if the trend should continue like this. Now, as to whether we can have another system which people have, proposed, yes, we can, whereby these services will have, a system in place where they themselves will now come up with modalities and then, couch a very, comprehensive roadmap with regards to hierarchical, appointments. But if we say we want to go that tangent, then it means we have to alter the regulations, the law. And I don't see who's going to lead that, conversation in the first place. And you're talking about politics in itself. The president who comes in and then wants to control everything under his, authority. You're talking about politics and security and vice versa. So whoever becomes the head of state will like to have control over every sector, including the security sector. And that by putting people he thinks can work with. Okay? You're talking about appointments that have been done, in the previous government. The notion or the perception is that these service chiefs have an allegiance to a certain, group of people. Now, you keep them in place, and then what would happen? There could be, or there may be instances where information could be leaked out, and then that means your system, your governance system would be at stake. So you look at all these things, you factor in the aspect of what winner takes all in our politics today, and then you are best assured to come out with some projection that there are certain things that are going to, happen, and obviously it's happening.
One of the, right before Ben comes in, one of the last things former President Akufo-Addo did before leaving office was to promote the current Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Thomas Opon-Prepa, to the rank of a 4-star general. And some of the things you said in that article was about whether, those in line to succeed these people if they proceed on retirement, whether the rank will be, matching the responsibility. Now that these names have come up, now that these appointments have been made, would you say they align with the structure that you had in mind, whether it's international military norms or at least reflect the, evolving operational needs of that security service?
Right. So with regards to the outgoing CDF who was promoted to 4-star and then the other service chiefs to 3 stars, now you would best assured I saw one article from Colonel Festus Abajo retired, where he explained and argued that with regards to our space, the security space itself doesn't warrant a 4-star or 3-star. Now, my take is that since the new crop of service chiefs have come out, and then with regards to their ranks, I've seen them, checked them, and they are 1-star generals. So then, you're best assured that they are acting as at now. So when they are confirmed, there's a likelihood that they will be given what? A 2-star rank. Because in the past, we've had what? 2-star generals and 2-star ranked officials who are what? At the top realm of affairs. Now, as to whether the President John Mahama will go on that tangent, okay, with regards to what? Another type of promotion, then we are yet to see. But I don't think, in my personal opinion, it is good for our service. Then you are sure that everybody that comes in would want to what? Go in that direction. But do we warrant with regards to these, promotions at that level? That's another question. So for me, I think substantively, if they come in and then it warrants at 2 stars, yes, why not? We go for it. But other than that, we have to look at the modalities well, and then for what purpose? That's what we have to think about.
Ben.
Speaking of the modalities, but even before I get there, just a quick question. The president, of course, must choose people he can work with, but these security changes, are they absolutely necessary?
Well, Ben, you talk about the aspect where, let me just make a practical example. You're working with the young lady there, and you kind of trust her in a certain way, so you would want to have that working relationship with her. It's the same with every institution. Okay, you're talking about a government that is, no more in office, in power, and then those who would have been appointed to serve another government, to serve the nation, are perceived to have what? Some allegiance to the outgoing president and the government itself. You are going to what? Jeopardize, or you are going to put your security system in what? In harm's way, or there's going to be a challenge if you decide to keep past appointees in there. It's a matter of trust going forward now. The leaders have to, work with people they think they can trust. And those who have not been associated with any past government. Now, ideologies come to play, ideas and concepts or whatever have come to play now. This is a new government who has new ideologies with regards to its security space, things that he wants to focus on. So then you are best assured that he would have a new crop of leaders to work with. And that is what we are seeing here.
I see. Interesting dynamics from that angle. But when it comes to the 1-star generals you speak of, is it mere formality that once they get into some of these positions, they will become 2-star generals? Is it a matter of course when it comes to these positions? I'm talking about the military leadership.
So normally what happens is those who are near for these top positions will likely also be near for what? Promotions to 2-star from 1-star. Because you have some 2-stars existing in the system already. And then you promote, you bring a 1-star to what? Be a CDS. How do you expect that what? Rank of respect or leadership with regards to the existing 2-stars? So then you have to what? Make them par. So there wouldn't be any kind of acrimony in the system. And that is the right way to go. So mostly all these 1-stars are near towards promotion to 2-stars.
Right.
And then you will have them being picked. And then shortly after, you give them the 2-stars. Because then it's like you coming in and you have seniors in the system. And how does that feel? You get the dynamics there. But if you don't play the cards well, you are likely to get acrimonies in the service, and you don't want that.
I have a quick follow-up for you, but let me quickly acknowledge Professor Kwesi Aning. He's a security consultant providing bespoke security services. Prof, good morning. Can you hear me, Professor Aning?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Great, Prof. Give me 40 seconds. I beg of you. Please give me 40 seconds. I don't want to lose my trail of thought with Dr. Doki. Doc,
yeah, sure.
So on the back of what you've said, why I pose that question, you know, in the police service, for example, there has been talk about, oh, Youno had been there for 40 years. Someone had not been there, Dr. Dampare and maybe some others had not been there for that long. That was why I was posing that question. So for the sake of ensuring that it is not as though you've promoted someone who is of a lower rank to be a head, you must up the ante for that person in terms of the ranking. That's what you're saying. Okay. Your Zoom is muted. You'll have to unmute for me, Dr. Doki.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah. So using the IGP Yorunu's case, this was a gentleman who was second in command. Now, would you bypass him to pick another person to become the IGP, or you just follow due process, right? You pick the deputy for him to become the IGP, who has few months to go, and then now you can make a substantive, appointment again. But to bypass the second man in command to pick another person, then I don't think that's in the right direction.
All right. Before Sweetie Abochi comes back into the fray, Prof, just quick thoughts. What do you make of this shake-up in the leadership of the military? We've had the police, the police has come through, but we've had the prisons, fire service, and we've also had immigration. Now we have the shake-up when it comes to the military proper. What are your initial reactions?
Well, I think the president has made some really excellent choices. The gentleman for the chief of the defense staff, General William Japan, an experienced officer, a gentleman, scholar, firm, disciplined. The chief of the naval staff and I were in Abuja a couple of weeks ago. The Air Force chief is an old friend, likewise the COAS. Now, the fascinating thing about these four men is the personal relationships and interlinking that will bring the collaboration, the fast thinking, and two critical things. First, the need to reset the Ghana Armed Forces. And I'm not using reset in a political sense. I'm using reset in a bureaucratic, administrative sense, in making sure that it comes back to its core mandate of protecting this republic. The second is about improving civil-military relations that in the last 3 to 4 years have had certain difficulties. So I think the president and his team have been very careful and cautious in making these choices of experienced officers whose loyalty to Ghana have been tested and proven, and who do what is expected to keep the country safe and to keep us moving. The fascinating thing about elevating a one-star sent several positive signals. If you remember, a couple of years ago, General Blay, as our High Commission, as the DE, the defense attaché in Abuja, was also elevated to the CDS. So there's a precedence for this. But what it does, and I want to come back to my usage of the word reset, is that it gives the president now the opportunity to promote bright, relatively young people who are one-stars and colonels and lieutenant colonels, who would otherwise have marked time for a very long period because the top was very heavy with 2 stars. You know, so I think going forward, it's a good day for the Ghana Armed Forces in terms of the individuals who have been chosen to lead the force.
And Prof, I mean, in the context of resetting the Ghana Armed Forces, how do security analysts like yourself assess, or should I say articulate, the impact of, you know, these rapid successions of appointments? Are there any concerns that these changes might lead to shifts in defense policies or military engagement? I say that because General Thomas Opon-Prepra was assumed office on 1st February 2024. Before then, we had Vice Admiral Seta Mwama, who was in office from the 5th of February 2021. Looks like we are seeing a lot of changes in the Ghana Armed Forces. Are there any concerns that this might affect or redefine our defense policies?
No, far from it. I think one of the things that we need to understand, particularly in the statutory security forces, is that the day you are appointed, you also know that the day will come when you have to leave, because above the rank of colonel, every single appointment is a political appointment. And therein lies our earlier suit to the Supreme Court last year to look at it. But be that as it may, for the men and women involved, they don't have a problem because they always know this day will come. But I want to make another point about the concerns that the public have around seemingly rapid turnovers. Look, by the time you hit colonel, your loyalty, professionalism, diplomacy have all been tested, either during peacekeeping outside Ghana, internal operations, the moves and the shifts to head different units, so that by the time you hit 1 star and the much heavier appointments come your way, you are very prepared and loyal to the Republic of Ghana and the government in power. You know, so I think the public should be rest assured that General Amwama had no qualms. There were a couple of, you know, misunderstandings here and there. Prior to General Opon-Prepra taking over, and now General William Ejapong is coming to take over. What I think the public must expect is an improved civil-military relations. We won't see the Ejura shootings. We won't see the Ashaman brutalities. We will see all kinds of things and elsewhere. You know, I think it is the quality of the leadership, the types of threats that they face, and then the political direction that they are giving as to the extent to which there can be excesses, that we should look forward to seeing a change. But I think the president and his men have made good choices with these 4 men: experienced, savvy, professional, but also willing to listen and to dialogue with the people that they are serving. So I think we can look forward to some good days.
Right.
But the oversight institutions, Parliament, must learn to play its role of engagement and ensuring that the taxpayers' monies and the taxpayers' expectations are held to the highest standards.
I'm glad you mentioned oversight role of Parliament. I know that presidential appointments to the Ghana Armed Forces top echelons have traditionally been in consultation with the Council of State.
Yes.
the statement that was put out, I didn't see anything like that. There was nothing that said in consultation with or approval of. It just says that they will be starting, or their appointment takes effect from the, what was it? Yeah, the 24th of March, 2025.
Yeah.
Do you believe that the Council
that.
of State has been consulted? This is...
Yes. Yes. But I want to respond to your concerns about the lack of parliamentary consultation. Parliament will have more than enough opportunities to engage and to crack the whip if and when necessary. There are 3 parliamentary committees that will have close engagement with all these statutory security institutions. One is the Parliamentary Committee on Intelligence, Defense, and Interior. The second is the Finance Committee. The third is the Public Accounts Committee. For the Finance and Public Accounts Committees, we always say they have the power of the purse because they pull the purse strings in terms of the financing, and then, of course, in intelligence, interior, and defense will then have to do more with issues of doctrine and operations and external engagements and all that. So Parliament's role will still be very much felt. But I think what is interesting is that these 4 new men will have an institutional interest in this parliamentary engagement. And I think Mr. Agalga, being the head of the Interior and the Defense and Intelligence Committee and the former Interior Minister himself, will also have an interest in ensuring that they have critical but harmonious relations.
Let's bring in Dr. Doki. And an interesting bit, because in the last few years, there have been some concerns about promotions within the military, the different arms of the military. And that was part of why I also brought in the bit about a 1-star general versus a 2-star general and all of that. How do you think things are going to shape up under this new leadership? And what maybe should the military be focusing on to ensure that such rancor can become a thing of the past? Dr. Doki.
Well, thank you. So let me build on what my boss was saying. Good morning to you, sir, as already stated. Now, he mentioned it gives the president the opportunity to now promote the young ones. Now, I'll tie to that, which is very true. Now, what some of us have heard is regards to what the promotions, that is a cause of concern. So then you wouldn't have so many who are supposed to be promoted, backlogged. So then what we're going to see now is those who deserve to be promoted will be promoted. Those who deserve to be going to head other institutions, key security institutions within the Ghana forces itself or external would get the opportunity to serve. So then you would have young officers who are vibrant, much more, enlightened, exposed, coming up with new ideas with regards to building the system. Now, when you have
but a quick one, Doc. You say those who ought to be promoted will be promoted. Are you by that suggesting that in the past there were those who ought to be promoted who were not?
Not entirely, because then you have too many 2-stars in the system. How do you then promote the 1-stars, 2-stars? Because there's a backlog. You understand? So then, if now you have young officers coming in, those who are beneath them will get the opportunity to be elevated, because these officers have taken up positions. So there's vacancy from where they left off, and then now you can fill it up, and then they can learn from those who have been promoted to 2-stars, and then whatnot, for them to pick up experience with regards to management of the system. That is what I'm trying to say.
Just on the back of that, a quick reflection. Usually when you look at the lineup of those promoted to these chiefs, army chiefs or service chiefs, rarely would you find women in there. And of course, it is also based on getting to certain levels, colonel and beyond, where these promotions can take place. Is there a deficit that you see in that regard? And should our executive leadership in the country start contemplating giving more opportunities to women to also lead?
I agree with you to a very large extent. Now, you would tend to think that with the kind of promotions coming in, you would have, one or two women in there to send a signal to the women also that with regards to the profession, you are what's given that opportunity to serve. So I think the executive should take a second look at that. And if you would want to have women taking up what number twos with regards to these positions, and I think it's in the right direction. Then other than that, then they feel left out. But we are encouraging the women now to take up what positions with regards to even enroll in the army and all of that, show what interest in that. So if we are encouraging the women, we want them to take it up, then we have to be rest assured to be give them the positions that they need. Well, we have the prison service woman who was taking the top position, but then when you come to the armed forces itself, I think we need to see more of this. There are women in there who have positions, but not at the top level like this. But we are hoping that they will take a second look, and some of us will drive that agenda also to get the objective done.
Prof, so coming to you briefly on this point, we have a new squad, so to speak, new men at the helm. And if you extend it, women as well, if you look at prisons, Patience Bafuboni. What then would be your expectations of this entire team, from immigration to prisons to police to all of the others, including the military, in terms of securing Ghana against the terrorist threat and also internally in respect of the Boku situation? What would be your thoughts?
I think the team that left, or I know that the team that has just left, did an excellent work to secure this country. That's number one. Number two, this second team will continue to build on what has been built already. What I expect them to do is not to allow our partners to push them because of petty cash to think that the terrorists are at our doorstep.
When you say partners, which ones? Be specific for me, please.
I'm not going to mention specific countries, but I think we all know the ones that hit the drum about the terrorists are coming, the terrorists are coming, the terrorists are coming.
Right.
We need to do our threat assessments ourselves. We need to determine what operational strategies are needed to respond to those threats, and then the equipment and the logistics that we need.
Prof, do we have what it takes to conduct all these threat assessments? Because sometimes it appears outside information is more potent.
I'm just about to climb the hill, so you may lose me very soon. But one of the things that we have started with, or that President Mahama is building on, is the Accra Initiative, where we now have a special envoy, Gbeblo Late, who is dealing with these three countries, with Togo contemplating joining them. So we are beginning to say, look, what are the threats that we face? What are the interlinkages? How do we, amongst ourselves as members of Accra Initiative, comprising Burkina Faso, Mali, Togo, La Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Ghana, of course, with Nigeria, as an observer state, how do we understand the types of threats that we are facing? How do we respond? What are the tools that we need? So this new team must do a lot of the hard lifting themselves in terms of the analysis and the triangulation. But I want to come back to one of my earlier points. Building better relations with communities and with the civil population. Because a better statutory security force, civil relations, means that intelligence will be shared much faster, trust will be built, and then we will see ourselves as cohering and fighting for a common end. But let me come back to the gender dimensions of these positions. And congratulations to Mrs. Bafoboni. There are a couple of very high-ranking women in the armed forces. 2 stars. I think one that I can very easily recall is Anita Asma. Smart, brilliant, tough as nails, competent. Unfortunately, we lost General Gianni after she had headed the peacekeeping force in the Western Sahara. We have a gender advisor to the CDS. So I think we are getting there. The earlier, the better. But I am very hopeful that we are going to get there because the caliber of highly qualified women, competent, professional, savvy, who are beginning to rise through their ranks. So there are some interesting times ahead. But of course, we are enjoined as ordinary citizens, also to engage, to dialogue, to collaborate, and where necessary, to criticize.
Prof, I understand a point you made about building better relationship with communities. We've been hearing stories or reports of alleged military brutality up north. I'm just wondering how might this new appointment, this new leadership influence the strategic priorities of the Ghana Armed Forces or even impact morale generally and unity when it comes to this relationship we talk about between the Ghana Armed Forces and we, the civilians?
Well, I think this morning I read somewhere that the military commander in Boko has been killed or something. Some fairly senior officer has lost his life.
No.
Now, are we looking at Boko properly? Or we are using old tools to assess an ever-changing conflictual situation in which the old tools do not work? Is it purely a chieftaincy crisis? Or we need to expand it to say what are the other variables that are impinging on and reacting with the original challenge? Organized crime, and what are the goods? It's not the usual guns and bullets, plastics, grains, explosives, fertilizer. Okay, so I am looking forward to the new team coming in, probably on a clean slate, and saying, do we need to look at what is happening differently? Do we need new tools of assessment? And can we draw new conclusions that allows us to determine what strategies to use to resolve this crisis?
Right.
The military themselves will tell you, and this is a word that I truly don't like at all, that kinetic, that is purely military means will not resolve some of these conflicts. So we need alternative non-military strategies to go in there and to say, how do we create other types of incentives so that those who are benefiting from the violence, and I can show you, if we do the disaggregation well, this conflict is a profitable conflict. I've said this several times, but people think I am crazy. So I sit at my desk and I say, okay, let's see whether the old style is going to work. You see, because what types of information were given to the president? The president first traveled out of Accra was to Boko. So for him to go there and for them to promise him and for him to assuage their fears and the conflicts are still going on, then it means we are doing the assessments wrongly. That we are reading the marbles that we've shaken in the basket and cast on the table. We are reading the alignments totally wrongly.
Prof, I want to get Dr. Doke's thoughts on this as well. Doc, how confident are you that this new leadership would influence strategic priorities in terms of, I mean, you wrote about bickering, and not for the Ghana Armed Forces, but some other security services. But really, how can this new leadership impact morale and ensure that we are getting better relationship with communities?
Well, first of all, let's look at the aspects of knowing what the priority is. If it is building strong relations with the civilians, then how do we come up with that? Because in the past we've heard about, as you rightly said, brutalities meted out to civilians and all of that. So if there's need to build capacity in those areas, I think then the new leadership can invest in that area, building capacity, and then also sensitizing the citizens as to know what they need to do with regards to collaborating with the civilians also. One other important thing that I wanted to talk about is collaborating with the sister security agencies, right? This should be, a new norm that would enhance better collaboration and sharing intelligence, which is needed. Unlike in the past where we've had some level of would I say, bickering with regards to who leads what, with regards to the national space, and then there is some level of show of force. This unit wants to prove that they are more important than the other. I mean, that doesn't help the system itself. So I think they need to focus on how they can collaborate more on the level of intelligence gathering going forward now. Build more capacity with regards to how the military themselves can relate better to civilians. Now, you talk about Boko. How do you ensure that the people who face it and trust that the security is there to protect them? And then we have to do away with all these political, appointments that do not help with regards to the service itself. And then those who are spearheading the mediation and negotiation approaches have to know that the service is there to help them. They need more collaboration in that aspect. Most of the times we see there's a gap in there, and that brings a lot of problems. So all these put together, I think we can do something, and then Boko will be at the end of the past, hopefully.
And that's it for me, but I just want to get clarity on something I read. You said, quote, I'm quoting you here, the Commander-in-Chief needs to consult extensively on the way forward to avoid any internal conflict within the Ghana Armed Forces. Failure to do so could be a threat to our security. Are these appointments subject to acceptance within the military hierarchy?
Yes, by and large. Now, Prof mentioned the fact that once you get into the system, you know what you have signed up for. You are being guided by your the moral obligation with regards to the service. So when you get to a certain level, as Prof has explained, you know that it's all going to be political appointments. So with regards to that, what I meant is those who are up for the right positions, those who deserve to be promoted to the right position should be given that opportunity in consultation with all the service chiefs that are involved, the Minister of Defense, Interior Minister, and so that you don't have people who have been left out, and that could bring bickering, and it could disturb the flow of command in the service, and you don't want to have that, because then if you have any hitches with regards to that, the chain of command in the service, then you have some men who are taking.
Thank you so much, Doc. Ben.
Gentlemen, we'll take your final thoughts. I'll start with you, Prof, that is if we still have you. But there's an interesting thought on my mind when it comes to the executive and its engagement with the Sahelian states. There's even a portfolio to deal with our neighbors in the Sahel who have gone out of ECOWAS. How do you think these service chiefs can also feed into that engagement in terms of bringing some cooperation between our countries? Prof, I'll start with you. 40 seconds each, if you can manage it. Do we have Professor Aning? All right, let me start with Dr. Doki on that point. Dr. Doki, if you can hear me, please unmute.
Hear me?
I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Hello, Benjamin.
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, please come with your question. Can you come with your question again? I was having interference then.
So I was saying the executive, the president has shown some, moves to engage our Sahelian brothers and sisters. I'm talking about Burkina Faso and others. And I'm saying with the appointment of these service chiefs, will you be expecting such interactions as well from the standpoint of the military in terms of cooperation?
Very much so. Now, why so? You're talking about threats that are in your face, and you are best assured that you would engage with your sister agencies across the borders to see how you can strengthen collaborations with regards to operations that would be needed to come to the fore should these threats come to your doorstep. So I would be expecting to see much of these engagements. Okay, with regards to that, the president has appointed Colonel Baglolate in regards to seeing to the Sahelian collaborations and all of that. So together with him and the military leadership, now the service chiefs, there would be some extensive consultations to see how best to strengthen ties, how best to share intelligence, and those institutions that have been mandated to collaborate on the front of fighting terrorism, extremism, would also be roped in together. They would have a comprehensive roadmap with regards to tackling these threats.
Thank you very much, Dr. Doki. Let me bring in Professor Kwesi Aning. Prof, are you able to interact with us now? It appears we don't have Prof. And that's how we're sewing up this conversation. Those who joined us on this belt, we have Dr. Victor Doki, a security analyst, and Professor Kwesi Aning, a security analyst providing bespoke security services. Well, before we take a breather, let me tell you about Solar-Made Ghana. Select a solar system from our various solar packages ranging from 30,000 to 99,000 Ghana cedis. All our solar systems come with lithium-ion batteries. You can get a solar water heater, a solar home system, a solar-powered station, or a solar generator ranging from 1,000 to 20,000 watts. We also sell reverse osmosis machines for water treatment. All you have to do now, Google Solar-Made Ghana to find us on both Facebook and Instagram. Reach us on 0508 320 470. Solar-Made Ghana is located at Adric East Legon. Solar-Made, we go everywhere.
And now I want to tell you about tanks, because let's talk about water tanks, Ghana. Do you know the secret to real water storage? It's simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it's not the correct tank. That's right. The tortoise tank, the Syntex tank, is a champion of water tanks. It is strong and durable, and it is built to handle our Ghanaian weather. Whether rain or shine, Syntex tank has got your back. So, my people, go outside, check your tank, and if it doesn't have the tortoise on it, it's time to upgrade. Join the Syntex tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. Call us 0244 335 168 to buy one, or find one of our over 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, a strong, a tough. Taking us on a quick break. When we return, more action on the AM show. Live on Joy News, this is still the AM show, and we want to bring you that feature that you've been looking forward to, because at Sachilibo DA Primary School, learning is a fight against the odds. Pupils do not just lie on the floor to write. They share overcrowded classrooms where multiple grade levels are taught together due to a dire shortage of teachers. With only 2 teachers handling the entire school, lessons are merged, making quality education nearly impossible. Hunger deepens the crisis as pupils go through the day on empty stomachs with no access to the school feeding program. Emmanuel Jivenu has more in our latest episode of education series, Crumbling Start.
If you're happy and you know, clap your hands. Education, often hailed as the foundation of the future, is falling apart in this farming community. At Sechelbo DA Basic School, the earlier stages of learning have become a struggle no child should endure.
We are 3 professional teachers in the school year. With that number, we divided the classes, the grades into 3 because we want each level should also have something. So one of the problems is the classes are not even enough. So we have 3 classrooms and we have to use those classrooms. So we have divided them into 3, KG 1, 2, and Basic 1 in one class, P2, P3 in another class, P4, P5, and 6. And we are handling them. We are not finding things easy. It's very difficult for us, but we are managing. But you okay, man?
Multi-grade teaching is not a choice here. It is a necessity, one that compromises the quality of education and the future of these children.
Frankly speaking, we have not been fair. We have never been fair to these young children. The children are suffering. How can a child sit on the floor to write? Some, even we have to buy mats for them to be able to sit so that they will be a little bit clean.
The recent delivery of textbooks to Sechelbo DA Basic School offers little solace when the lack of desk leaves these books vulnerable to wear and tear.
With the textbooks, if you don't have any a sitting place, with the textbook, these children, they are young. They are not like grown up like us. We can hold and write. They are small. We are teaching them. But with the textbook, how would they write? So at least they should come to our aid.
The school feeding program is a lifeline for education, providing meals that boost enrollment, keep children in school, and help them focus on learning. Unfortunately, pupils at Sechelbo DA Basic School go through their day on empty stomachs with hunger, competing against education and causing enrollment to decline.
The school feeding, which will have also helped to increase the enrollment, I and my head, we applied. Still, we have not had any information about it. We're also planning to even mobilize ourselves to see if the community can help. Then we'll do some gardening for the school. When we harvest, then we'll be using it to do porridge for the children in the morning. That will also help them to come. Okay, you are welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, we need teachers.
I'm a native of this community, but recently I completed my education in Iba. From there, after that I completed my education, I said, no, let me come back to my first station or my old school to help my junior brothers so that they can also be well educated from me.
Joshua's story is one of hope and sacrifice, but even his addition cannot fill the gap left by a shortage of professional teachers.
On the average, most of our primary schools have less than 4 teachers. On the average, most of them have 2 teachers, 3 teachers. The school that we could say is very lucky will be in Tertiary Township here, maybe about 5 teachers, the primary school. So that's how bad the staffing situation is.
And I doubt how a class 1 child can learn class 3 subjects. And they all learn the same thing. So it means the lower ones are being polluted because they can not even pronounce 2-letter words. How can they be writing the sentence to read the whole sentence?
Claire, please pay attention. For these children, the future seems uncertain. Poor infrastructure and inadequate staff have created a crisis that demands urgent intervention.
The children themselves are quite cooperative, but for some time now we are also trying to also involve much attention from the parents so that they will help together with us to bring the children to board. Though they are all doing well and then they are cooperating, but the academic aspect is also low at the moment. That's for my experience. I've seen that they need a lot. And when I came, I also tried to find out why it is this way. I got to realize that there were insufficient infrastructural activities that will support the children to pick up the knowledge they needed.
These children represent the promise of tomorrow, but without desks to sit on, classroom to learn in, or food to sustain them, how can they carry the weight of a nation's future? It is time to act. It is time to make fairness a reality for every child in Ghana. Emmanuel Jivenu, Joy News, Sachilbo, Northern Region.
And that is the plight of those in the Sachilbo DA school, some of what they have to face on a daily basis. And it's part of our latest documentary, Crumbling Start. But as we get into that, we have guests in the studio from the School for Life who joined the conversation. Wedad Shaibu is director of the School for Life. We also have Ayuba Abukari, head of programs and partnerships, also with the School for Life. A very good morning to you, Wedad.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Thanks for having us. Thank you for having us.
I'm just curious, as we kickstart the conversation, School for Life, what do you do? Tell us about what you do.
School for Life is basically about education, basic education, but basic education in particular specific areas of Ghana, areas that are largely deprived, areas that lack their basic educational resources for children to thrive. So basically our work is anchored on the belief that every child in Ghana should have access to basic education, regardless of their location, regardless of their gender, ethnicity, and social status. And that is actually what brought the organization into being 30 years ago. And
did you say 30?
30. So
30
we are actually celebrating our 30th anniversary.
Wow.
Yes. So essentially, we work by advocating for the government and other relevant stakeholders to ensure that basic access to quality basic education is achieved in Ghana.
Okay. It's been a number of years since I started hearing of School for Life. Ayuba, but it appears you work predominantly in the northern belt of the country. Is that the case?
Yes. Yeah, we work in 7 regions out of the 16 administrative regions of Ghana.
Okay.
So yes, we work in basically in the northern sector. We work in northern region of East, Upper West, OT, and then we also work in the Ashanti region. Yeah.
Okay, which usually is also added to the northern belt of the country for some logistics. So you've added it in there as well. Exactly. Are you hoping to get into other regions?
Yes, we are hoping. Like Wedad said, we don't want to leave any child behind. And our flagship program is what we call the complementary basic education, where we mop up out of school children and then put them in the formal school. And so wherever we have that incidence, then we want to be there to support so that some children are not left out. Because if a child is past 7, 8 years and is not in school, they are likely to miss basic education. And so these are the children we look out for in, deprived areas, and then bring them into school. And in the Ashanti region, we have, if you go to Central Front Plains and then Santiago North, those areas, we have these children there. So that's why we are intervening there. So wherever we find that there are children who are likely to miss out on basic education, then we want to bring them on board.
Wedad, before Sweetie comes in, is this why the concept of leaving no one behind? Is that why you partnered us in Crumbling Start, so that we bring to the fore the problems in these areas?
Yeah, very well so. For us, We think that as an organization, especially that we are just a non-governmental organization, our work is to complement the government. And we cannot do it alone. I mean, the problem of Ghana's basic education is overwhelming. And no single organization can achieve what we want to achieve, leaving no one behind. So it is essential that we partner with various stakeholders who have interest in ensuring that basic education, and quality basic education for that matter, is provided to every Ghanaian child. We reach out to them, and that is why we partner with Joy News, because we know that Joy News is passionate about decent social provision of social services, including education. And you have the platform that would ensure that the critical issues, the compelling evidence, reach out to those who really need to hear, those who really need to see what the challenges that children in so many communities, so-called rural and deprived areas, are facing. And so we really deem it very necessary to partner with Joy News, because you have a huge platform that can engender that publicity, bringing to the fore, to the public limelight, the lived realities of children, I mean, who form greater proportion of our population in Ghana, who are largely neglected. So, it is the reason why we partner, because...
I'm really excited to see you in the studio here. When I grow up, I do want to be like you, full-time charity work. Yeah, hopefully I'm rich enough so I can do that. But I mean, one of the things I love about what we do as media is exactly what you said, that we shine lights on these issues. And this story, as much as it makes me sad, it makes me hopeful, because we're having a conversation on it, and interested parties, the authorities, those who can help, will see and come to your aid or come to our aid. I want to start from, I mean, we've just told the story. What was the highlights for you? For me, it's just the mere fact that children have to lie on their stomachs just so they can get what you are calling comprehensive basic education. But what was the highlights for you?
It's sad, isn't it? But the story of Sachilbo DA Primary is one of multiple deprivation, as you can see. They lack decent classroom infrastructure, they lack furniture, they lack sufficient teachers required to provide quality teaching and learning. And you might have also observed that the community is faced with acute poverty, but yet they do not have school feeding program.
Yeah.
So what it means is that children in this school have to endure on empty stomachs to learn. So that is why I mean, it's a combination of deprivations of several layers of deprivation. And what it means is that we are basically setting these children up for failure. But I also want to note that the story of Sachilbo is not just a single story. It's not just limited to Sachilbo. It's widespread, especially in that part of the country where we work.
Right. Ayuba, I want to, have you been able to reach any authorities on any explanation as to why these children have been left out of the free school feeding program, I mean? Have you got anything, any explanations at all so far?
Yes, so we have been working closely with the Ghana Education Service and then the district assemblies in the various districts we work. And we have been engaging with them. And the school feeding program is challenged. Not all schools are covered. And then even the amount paid per child, it is very small until this budget that they have increased it a bit.
Which is still, if you ask me, insufficient.
It's
but
insufficient. And so the explanation is that there are no funds to actually cover every school. And every now and then schools keep coming as the population grows. Schools keep growing. And then budgetary allocations have not been made to cater for all these schools. So essentially the problem is the assemblies and GES want to actually have feeding programs in all the schools, but due to budgetary constraints, they cannot have in all the schools.
Now, I want us to measure impact, just to drum home the point that these children really need help. How many of these children have actually reached a certain level of literacy where you can say that they can compete with maybe other pupils from basic schools here in Accra or other major cities?
Yes, so if we look at the surveys we have done and the researches we have, it shows that where we work, competencies levels are very low. Children in such schools, the statistics tell us that just about 6% to 9% of those children are able to read and comprehend what they are reading at the appropriate age.
What?
Yes.
6 to 9?
Yes, compared to national level figures. Yeah, and that is even a challenge in the education sector, getting real-time research to use to diagnose children's problem and to be able to attend to them. The national standardized test is not forthcoming. And so when we are talking, we still use the EGMA results to talk about these things, because the system has it's even betraying us. We don't have real-time data, to talk about this. But when you go into the school like this and even try to greet them in English, you'll be surprised.
Yes, yes. I saw a video on social media. Good morning. The number of them who can be able to respond
very well.
Oh my God.
Thoughtless of actually reading and then writing and comprehending. And so that is the scale of the problem. And like with that said, it's not just this school. We have a number of such schools across the northern sector and where we work.
Are you able to give us an estimate, just so we can see? Is there a number, like how many schools, off the top of your head, do you think need that urgent attention in terms of infrastructure, even the feeding program and all that? If you can make an estimate, that would be fine. Otherwise,
we have the estimates.
How many schools are we talking about?
If you look at Africa Education Watch did a research, and they are telling us that we have about 5,300 schools that are under threes.
Which the Education Minister Haruna Idrisu reiterated recently.
Yes.
Over 5,000 schools were under threes.
Yeah.
Which is also interesting because just a few years ago, I remember one of the meets the press interactions at the Information Ministry with Kojo Nkrumah.
Yeah.
They made mention at the time, I think it was over 2,000 per the Ghana Education Service or the Ministry of Education, 2,700 or something.
Yeah.
And now we are looking at about 5,000 of them.
And that is the problem. And so look at the number, it's increasing, right? Which means that we are not paying attention to that. And what saddens us is, as we are reviewing the budget that has been read, we haven't seen any explicit provision made to actually, address this problem, even though it was part of the manifesto. We haven't seen, a direct provision to address this. And so we have.
By this, you mean schools under trees?
Yes.
And, schools with dilapidating infrastructure and all that.
Structures, there hasn't been any. Unless, of course, they are hiding it somewhere we don't know, but we haven't seen it explicitly, which we think is worrying. If we have this situation, and like we have alluded, it is not attended to, then the dilapidation continues.
Right.
With
that, you can come in. Also, when you are done with your reflection, I want to know where we start from in terms of how to actually help these children.
So we're still talking about statistics. Available data from MS suggests that close to about 30% of KGs and 35% of primary schools. With KG, the 30% translate into about over 20,000 schools. And then the 35% of primary school translate into over 76,000 schools that need major repairs. They are dilapidated and they need major repairs. And this is a data as way back in 2023. And as we speak now, it might be worse, looking at the trend. So it's like we have a problem in our hands. we don't attend to it, and many more emerge. In terms of people-teacher ratio, which was also highlighted as a problem here, if you look at the average in the deprived areas, we have an average of about 58 people to one teacher ratio, on average. Northeast and Savannah situation is even worse. We have 85 people to a trained teacher in the Savannah region, and 80 to a teacher in the northern region. These are what the data says. These are the practical realities that children are faced with.
Right.
So when I said earlier that Sarajevo situation is not just a peculiar one and that it is pervasive, this is what we are talking about. Okay. And it's like there is no proactive and deliberate effort to dealing with the problems that emerge, and many more comes up, and that compounds the situation.
This is your forte, so I'm tempted to ask, what will, proactive measures look like?
Proactive measures look like, one, as my colleague indicated earlier, in the provision of resources. At the start of it, it has to do with how we plan. And for government, the planning stage starts with the budgetary allocations, the intentions, the budgetary allocations, what the government intends to do. So it is not just merely about saying that I will do A, B, C, D and leave it at that. If in what is stated in our party manifesto, some budgets are presented and you don't really seem to see anything to the effect that the intentions are really meant to be realized, then it is problematic. Secondly, it is not just about the budgetary allocation, but it is also about the disbursement. Oftentimes, we have always been faced about a situation where budgets are red, and so much is allocated to sectors and institutions. But at the end of the day, maybe only less than a quarter gets there. So purposeful and intentional or deliberate proactiveness means that whatever we say we will do, we want to see it in the, at the very least projected in our budget. And then also the resources are disbursed. And then those who are supposed to implement are also held accountable to do the implementation. In the sense that if resources are disbursed to the institutions, to what extent so it's now then the utilization. So if you track budgetary, in terms of budget management, you start with the intentions within the budget projections that is red environment. And then you looked at the disbursement. How much of what is set? So first, how much has been allocated? Is it adequate? If it is not, then it is problematic. And even with what has been projected, how much of it goes to the institutions and sectors that it has been projected to do?
Right.
If so less goes there, then it is problematic. And beyond just the disbursement, how is it utilized? And it is, for us, it is important for us to follow all these trends to ensure that whatever is allocated is disbursed, then what is disbursed is utilized.
We have to be
the
really
very
intentional.
benefit
of
the children. Otherwise, we will not get anywhere.
A quick follow-up on those points. In the past, have you had designated funding for dealing with schools under trees?
That is the question, because usually it's also about lumping up resources. Okay, this so much goes to basic education. You hear so much, but it will interest you to know that much of what goes into the education sector, because that is where we work, and so at least we can speak to that. Much of it goes into, servicing salaries, wages, and also, so in terms of the real provision of the resources required for children to really effectively learn, there's little, if at all. And there isn't that targeted allocation. Like, let's say, okay, this is the problem at hand, and we are dedicating this so that if we dedicate this amount of money to it, we'll be able to eradicate the problem. That specific targeting is not really done in terms of our budgetary allocation as far as I have observed.
Which is why I specifically asked you that question. I'll come to you, Ayuba, because indeed the problem has been identified over time that we have schools under treatment. There are general funds, and the Education Ministry has one of the biggest budgets, sometimes the biggest budget of all.
Of the social
so the
sector,
question is, do we need more stratification when it comes to what goes where? But also knowing our educational system, sometimes you understand why there are no such delineations because of how much of a mesh the entire system is. But at least something I noted from the budget, which will also help those at the basic level, and I'd like us to talk about that. Free sanitary pads. As for SHS, I know you're talking about, but there's also a dedicated funding for free SHS. And then the free textbooks. The matters you are raising, very valid, and hopefully, I don't know whether usually a mid-year budget review will not bring in such changes, but hopefully moving forward, we can have dedicated funding for schools under trees. How do you react to these developments? How do you think they will impact free textbooks, free sanitary pads? What impact will they have? I think I want to start with Ayuba.
Thank you so much. Rightly so, for us, for purposes of addressing issues of equity, we think that, spelling out a specific budget for some of these things is critical, and that is what the government has tried to do. If we look at, we have a capitation grant. The increase is phenomenal, about 73% change in the increase over last year's budget. And you look at school feeding program, there is an increase, about 33% change. And if you look at textbooks, about 464% change, or 370% increase over last year's budget. And then the teacher trainee allowance, which I don't want to talk about, and then sanitary pads initiative. This is the first time we are allocating budget for that specifically. So it makes sense, for us to spell out, in each subsector or each budget line, what we want to use it for, so that it is clear. If we are tracking that budget line, like we just said, to its, point of utilization. But if it is lumped up, because this issue of schools under trees is very critical, and we've been talking about it.
Indeed.
It would have made sense if the government came out to say that we are dedicating a line for it. And in the government promise, we also heard about furniture for all. It was very pronounced. In the budget, we haven't seen, we would have expected to see a line on that. We haven't seen that. And look at those children, they were lying on their stomachs. You see? So we think that these, stratifications are very important so that it makes tracking easier for us. So we are told by statistics and data that about 40% of our children are lying on their stomachs. These children are part of those children.
About 40%.
40%, translating into about 1.1 billion children.
Even now it's 2.3.
It's 2.3 now, right? So
where is this figure coming from? DSS?
The figure is from the EMIS data.
Yes.
It says that as at 2021, the EMIS data estimated that about 2.3 million do not have decks.
Right.
Yeah.
And considering that, from that time after, we have not really seen any deliberate attempt at providing this. The numbers might even be more.
Yeah.
A
philanthropist helping.
Talking about deliberate provision and target and the stratification, as an organization that really have been focusing on out-of-school children, it is also of concern to us in terms of the stratification that we noted in this budget allocation, nothing has been provided for in terms of programs. I mean, to support program deal with the out-of-school children problem. There isn't any earmarked fund support for the complementary education agency that is supposed to support out-of-school children.
Part of what you do.
And that is what we do. I mean, the complementary basic education program is an accelerator and a stopgap measure to ensuring that children who are left out of school due to no reason, no fault of theirs, because but as a result of the systemic failures of our education system, or get a second chance to education by providing that accelerated program in literacy, numeracy, and life skills for a period during which time they will then be mainstream into formal school. And this program has actually proven to be very effective in tackling the out-of-school children problem. So it is a bit worrying to us as an organization that have really seen the achievements that this program has brought into our education system, that this budget has actually shown a blind side to this critical problem.
In fact, with that then, Ayuba, beyond the budget and the work that government ought to do, you've taken charge, you're doing something about it. You need help.
Yes.
What do you need?
First and foremost, we need effective partnership. Like I indicated in the beginning, we cannot do it all by ourselves. We need a concerted voice, and part of what we need is what we are actually doing, partnering with other agencies like-minded to bring to fore the challenges that are facing. But beyond that is also an issue of resources.
Yeah.
Largely, as an organization, our resources has been, sources of funding has been heavily dependent on outside foreign governments and foreign philanthropies. And knowing currently what is happening on the global stage in terms of the development space, where with what is happening in the US, where foreign aid is being, priorities are being changed in terms of the foreign aid, then it is coming as a huge blow to us, because as an organization that have relied on these kinds of funding to do the work that we do. When we started in the 90s, Danida, that is the Danish government, really supported us so much, and to do the kind of work, to provide the complementary basic education program. For well about 2 decades, they've stayed with us. Then, having noticed the successes, the great successes of the complementary basic education program to dealing with the out-of-school children problem in Ghana, other development partners came on board, the DFIDs, the USIDs, they came on board to support. And I must tell you that to date, the School for Life alone, through the complementary basic education program, have reached out to over 450,000 children.
450,000?
50,000 children from when we started to date. And these children, I tell you, but for that intervention, will not have had access to basic education.
That's a success story, and I'm sorry I have to take the wind out of the sail because we are running against time. But what I'm hearing from Widad is that you don't actually have enough or non-existent at all local philanthropists or investors or people who just want to come on board and help, funders and so on and so forth. This is a big platform. I think we can appeal to those who are watching us right now who, if they have the means to help, there are so many organizations who I believe might use this as a corporate social responsibility opportunity. So let's speak to them.
Yes, so we speak to, philanthropists in Ghana who can support our work. Like Widad said, we are actually doing a lot. Reaching out to children in communities that otherwise would have just been left out. Sometimes we go to a community and it's about 10 kilometers from a closest school. but we are in the community, we help the children to learn some foundational literacy, and then we support them to get to school. Without money, we can't do all this. And so we appeal to local philanthropists, to corporate organizations who can support our cause, that they should join us and they will not be disappointed, because we are judicious about what we do, and we make sure that every cedi is used to the benefit of the poor child. And so, I mean, we need funding, and like Wida has said, though international donors are cutting down, U.S. government has cancelled our project. One of our biggest projects has been cancelled. And the Dutch government is cutting down, aid. The Belgian government is cutting down aid. Yeah. And it's actually hitting us, but we need to continue to do what we do. Right. And so we call on corporate organizations, corporate Ghana, and then individual philanthropists to support our work.
Thank you so much.
To touch the lives of children.
Right. Then?
Well, I guess we must learn to aid ourselves.
Yes.
That's the whole point.
Yes.
We must learn to feed ourselves, aid ourselves, so that if aid is cut from elsewhere, we can continue. Yeah. And I'd like to add my voice to that call. I think since 2016, 2017, I've been following part of the work of School for Life, and they've done some amazing things in the past, especially in deprived communities in the northern belt of the country, and it's worthy of support. Thank you so much for what you continue doing for Mother Ghana.
Thank you so much for having us and for your collaboration. We really cherish it.
We are grateful.
We dare for you.
We dare for you.
Thank you so much.
Widad Saibu is Director, School for Life, and Ayuba Abubakar is Head of Programs and Partnerships, School for Life. They're doing marvelous work, trying to get children to be educated, doing the work that government ought to be doing. Stay with us, and when we return, we'll bring you so much more action in the next 30 minutes or so before we wrap up. Remember, the AM show is brought to you by Waylead Properties. We'll be right back. Thank you.
This year's World Mathematics Day celebration was held under the theme Mathematics, Arts and Creativity. The event in the Central Region brought together students from all levels to showcase their skills in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Speaking at the event in Cape Coast, the Director of STEM Education at the Ghana Education Service, Mrs. Olivia Sewa Opare, emphasized the importance of enhancing STEM education at the preschool level.
STEM education is no other subject than doing. And our foundational learning, that is preschool, is the place that we need to pay much attention to, because that is the foundation for knowledge and skills so far as STEM education is concerned. Over there, we do a lot of integrated approach of learning, where we use scientific concepts to come out with confirmations. Now, look at this TLM, this beautiful TLM, where we have mimicked our two fingers. And there is creativity, which is one of our core competencies when we teach science, when we teach mathematics.
The Central Regional Director of Education, Emmanuel Suman, highlighted the importance of innovative teaching practice to make mathematics more easy.
In today's world, that is the 21st century, whatever you do, you can't do it without STEM. So if we catch them or we let them develop interest in mathematics at that level, I think when they grow, become part of them. And what we are trying to do is, the curriculum has been developed in such a way that teachers will use simple pedagogy to teach that subject, so that pupils will have more interest in that subject.
According to Madam Grace Esuman, the STEM coordinator for KEA, the newly introduced curriculum at the basic level incorporates interactive methods to make learning fun and engaging.
Now, GES has introduced the practical learning, and the practical learning starts from preschool to our KG, from KG to primary, then we move to JHS up to the SHS. then beyond. Now, with this practical lens, we realize that at the ancient days, a lot of women are afraid of mathematics, and it builds up to the tertiary level, and women cannot venture into the mathematical field or STEM field. But now we have made it very practical. That is why we have showcased all these things.
Some of the preschool teachers spoke to Joy News.
Learning has become more fun and interactive because the children learn through play. And through that, as they are learning, they are able to better understand the world around them and whatever they are doing. They grasp concepts very fast. So we have this math center, as we see here, also in the classroom with other centers where learners are able to go and interact with the materials and learn through play. So that has become the way of learning in the kindergarten now.
Welcome back. It's the last lap on the AM show this Tuesday morning, and we're opening the phone lines for you to have your say. What has been the highlight of your day for you in terms of everything we've discussed this morning on the AM show? Don't limit it to just here. Everything that's happening in the country. If you want, if you have some thoughts to share, we want to hear them. Ben and I are here. We were ready to pick your calls. The phone lines will be on your screens. I believe are on your screens right now. So give us a call and let's get interactive. But what was the highlights of the conversations we've had this morning for you, Ben?
In respect of education and everything we've discussed, we'll be getting into that. But there's also the bit about the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, who has been calling for a sort of hospital setup for parliamentarians in terms of their health, and also asking for a new chamber, so to speak. Of course, that will come at some cost. The question is, are we ready as a country for that? You can share your thoughts on the security conversation we had, the changing of the guard when it comes to the Ghana Armed Forces, and then the School for Life and basic education in Ghana schools and the trees. And you can also add your thoughts on this call by the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin. So health, a hospital facility or a medical facility specifically for parliamentarians, and then also a new chamber. We have Abdul from Medina. Good morning, Abdul.
Good morning. I've been listening, and there are a lot of things that Ghanaians are crying over, and I don't know what's so special about the MPs, and we are all ordinary Ghanaians. Look, they don't need hospitals. We need a lot of things. Even Gold Coast customers haven't been paid. Bond holders have been paid. It's left with Gold Coast customers, and there is money. Who should pay us? We are dying out here, and they are there trying to talk about building hospitals and creating stuff for them, while we, the ordinary people, are suffering. They need to pay us our money so we can also do stuff with it. We are dying. That's the least I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdul, for calling and sharing your thoughts. You can also do same by sharing your thoughts. Call that number at the bottom of your screen, 0302-221-691. 0302-221-691. What are your thoughts? Please share them with us. Let us know what's on your mind.
What's wrong with the hospitals that we have in this country that the Honorable Member of Parliament, we want a different hospital for lawmakers? We have Al Hassan on the phone. Good morning, Al Hassan.
Good morning, sister. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Zenu Central.
Oh, okay, great. Have your say.
Yeah, I want to contribute to the Honorable Afenyo-Markin's proposal.
Right.
I don't think we should have something special for the political class, the way he crafted that political class, and we put them there to serve us. And then the suggestion that that political class should have some special treatment, I don't think that is a good one to do. And secondly, the chamber, I thought that this chamber had been dropped when his party was in power. So he shouldn't be the one to be raising it again. I would say sorry for that, because we don't need those things now. This is not the time for us to discuss those kind of issues. If for anything at all, rich is just closer. This will make rich better, very, very better for all of us than them anytime they have a complicated issue, they are traveling outside the country. They should make it better for everybody to have access to that place. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Al-Hassan.
Well, I mean, come to think of it, it was at the swearing in of the Parliamentary Service Board. But the question is, if we have medical facilities that are world-class across the board, our parliamentarians can go there too, right? Do we need to have a dedicated medical facility for them? But at the same time, it may also be that, well, what if there's an emergency in Parliament? Do they have, I know they have some health, situations, but we must get further details on that. We have, is it Gilbert from OEB?
Right.
Gilbert, good morning.
Good morning.
Your thoughts, sir?
My thought is, in fact, Parliament, we vote them there. And if they are taking off better service in health, then what about we, those who vote them there? Are they taking off us? Instead of him to say they should improve our hospitals rather than creating hospitals for MPs, I don't think that's the right way he should talk. He should think of it and apologize to the voters. That's my thought.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts. Of course, someone reminded us that, do you remember Drop That Chamber?
Hey, yeah.
Do you remember? Hashtag Drop That Chamber. So it's being resurrected. I don't know whether this is a political test. It's kind of like when he said to the president, oh, apologize to Ghanaians and appoint more ministers. I don't know whether this is a political test, the chamber bit. But on the medical facility, I guess Ghanaians will be divided on that. I am sure, because I am a bit conflicted on it.
I think Ghanaians don't like to give our politicians or leaders that feel that they're superior to us or they're different than us, because the policies and the laws you're making affect us as regular citizens. So if you want to remove yourself from decisions you make, we have a problem with that. We have another caller on the line. Jeff from Lower Manya. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity. I just want to comment a little bit on building new hospitals for MPs.
Right.
I think it is the same person who probably proposed the Agenda 111, where we could have targeted about 30 to 40 hospitals. He's the same person now saying we should go and build for the MPs. Meanwhile, we have schools under trees. We have so many pressing issues. Please, let's try to prioritize some of those. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was very brief and straight to the point. Let's prioritize. I think that's one we should drum home and fix the hospitals. And then maybe create special wards for parliamentarians in the hospitals that we also go to. Not to remove yourself. What kind of classes,
I mean, unless it is for proximity. And I do know that in Parliament they have some sort of medical...
Yes, they do.
But unless it's for proximity, if it's for the general issues, I think if they fix our general hospitals, the system will be fixed so that, for example, the speaker, sometimes, he's had a number of issues where he had to go outside of the country for medical treatment and all of that. That is what we should aspire to, so that the speaker can be in this country, the president can remain in this country and get excellent world-class treatment. But speaking of which, the speaker also, in the fray mentioned security in Parliament and how sometimes it's accessible to all kinds of people. Some of them will do something and then jump over the wall and all of that. I think that's another reason.
We saw that even during the vetting processes where the room was packed. But let's speak to Al-Hassan from Nanumba. Al-Hassan, make it.
So they should leave the hospital.
Let's try again. We are just hearing you. What's up?
What's up?
Al-Hassan, share your thoughts with us.
I would say they use Ghanaian money so Ghanaian don't have money, so they should leave the hospital.
Well, thank you so much. I think he's saying Ghanaian man don't have money, so we should leave the hospital. Ah, okay, great. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. You can also call in. We have some time to spend with you today. The phone lines are on your screens. The Minority Leader, Alexander Apenyo-Markin, is proposing that they build a new hospital for the parliamentary chamber. We have someone calling from Kwewu Mprayoso. Boama, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Bacho Mekachi.
Hey, Bacho Kechi, no way. Mate Kechi.
Yo, I'm saying, we program now more for education. The Bia Meshe, na me bomba basupa ewo. I'm saying, Achimota school, Prempe, was any schools na GD. Yankwala na more rural areas no. I'm to TV who know who schools no ni more than mobile. Money you pass on the view. Now so infrastructure. And then near ma, I'm the best near the normal pass ya bahon. Ebi ni ho. Ba ube be ho light ni ho share program we buy a secondary school ni bia. Or share na class no who say teacher ni ba ko post ni bi ntino. Okoya o kire ABC di nkwalai. You say join news to Crumbling na mo reporter no. Extra L ni C. Eti show onompo a wa wie school ho akọ secondary school no. L ni E Crumbling no ohunu ntro nche ho. Enti mi pa cho mama program no bra deep to the rural areas na pa education sector no. Empaja na parliament is something they munya because they are enjoying hospital benefit. Omunya allowances be free. Apart from these allowances be free, amoko hospital are free no. More sign per hospital. Yeah, nya hwe no. Yeah, nko. It more focus on education. No, the munya parliament for no MIY. That's them.
Yo, yeah, that's it. I wish I could do a translation for the benefits of
shots fired. So the summary, he's basically saying he commends Joy News for the work we've been doing on education. He's been watching a lot of these, and that as far as he's concerned, we should focus on such rural areas and do more in the rural areas in terms of exposing these problems and ignore the parliamentarians and their requests they are enjoying already. We have Al Hassan from
Yes, I think that's our last call. Al Hassan from Savannah. Good morning. Share your thoughts.
Good morning.
Al Hassan, you're our last caller. Share your thoughts with us and lower the volume on your TV set. Talk to me directly on your phone.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What's on your mind?
Please, my name is Shamimu, calling from Nima. It's not Savannah.
Okay. Hi, Shamimu.
Please,
Aminu, go ahead.
The reason why I'm calling, Ben, you said, Apenyo-Markin said, concerning the building of clinic, the program came through a parliamentary committee. But the way you people put it, as if Apenyo-Markin came out recommending government to build this thing for us, for them. Please, they should look at the editorial itself, please. Because it would think that MPP and Apenyo-Markin wanted parliamentarian, the clinic for themselves. So it will create a confusion. So
okay, thank you very much. But it was a proposal by Alexander Apenyo-Markin for the establishment of a dedicated hospital for members of parliament. I don't know how else you wanted us to put it, but it is what it is. Anyway, and in any case, the majority leader also, he came on board and he was not for this. You can check out the story on My Joy online. The title of the story is Apenyo-Markin proposes MP's hospital and a new parliamentary chamber. Ayariga opposes. You can read the story for details. Anyway, I guess...
Well, there's something happening right now that we have to leave you with.
So the PricewaterhouseCoopers Ghana 2025 Budget Digest is happening right now. It's at the Mövenpick Hotel. And speaking right there, the presidential advisor on the economy, Dr. Seth Tekle. That's how we leave you on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akako.
And I'm Sweetie Abochi. Enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye for now.
With these historical insights, and on behalf of the Minister for Rest, we welcome the conversation that would come, so that we pick the good and continue with them, and then with the bad, we can banish it, so that Ghana can return to the limelight as an upper middle income country on our own management of the economy and not on a fortuitous one, like when we strike oil or so, because we may not be prepared to manage those resources when they come in if we do not have a plan. I thank you very much, and on behalf of the Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Setekpe. Good morning once again to us all in this room and also to our online viewers. You're welcome to today's discussion.